All right, I need a motion that the Upper Canada School Board approve the consent agenda items January 14th, 2015 as submitted. Moved by Trustee McPherson, seconded by Trustee McDonald. Oh, Trustee Bill McPherson. W. McPherson. Doesn't help.
No.
And will you cast your votes, please? And everyone's in favor. Trustee McAllister, you're with us here?
No, I'm in favor, but I'm not getting it here. I'll try and reload here.
Not a good start. Okay, any conflict of interest? Seeing that there are none, we're going to move on to the first action item. We want to move into the Committee of Whole. I need a motion to move into the Committee of Whole for the discussion on agenda items 5.02 to 6.03, January 14th, 2015. Moved by Trustee Karkner, seconded by Trustee Cram. And cast your votes, please. And who do we have on the phone lines?
You have Jeremy.
Jeremy, welcome.
Thank you. Sorry I couldn't be there.
That's no problem. We're just moving into the discussion items. We've just moved into the Committee of the Whole, Jeremy. So
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so the next two items, that passes by the way, the next two items, always something that I think is really important, is we're having our schools come and do presentations, and you know, we've been doing this now for a while, and it's, I have to admit, it's absolutely one of the highlights of the night for us to be able to see what's happening out in the field. We're always so proud of what's happening. I'm going to turn the introduction over to the director.
Thank you very much, Chair McMillan. It's my pleasure to introduce Marg Fritz. Marg is the principal at Drummond Central School. And you will hear that it is the place to be. And having visited Drummond Central, I can attest to that. Normally we have our superintendents introducing our school success presentations. Susan Edwards is in Toronto this evening at a equity and inclusion training this week. So she's sorry that she can't be here because she has a certain pride in Drummond Central School as well. So Marg, I'd like to invite you to come to the table. And also, while Marg's coming up, I'd like to recognize that John Gow is with us. John is the CAP for the Perth Family of Schools and works closely with Marg in that capacity. I'd also like to acknowledge Terry Gardner, and Terry is our school effectiveness principal, and he's done a tremendous job in supporting all of the principals who've come to the table to present to the Board of Trustees. So it's really great to see you here tonight. Thank you, Terry. So, Marg, I turn the floor over to you, and as Jeff said, the board is a very welcoming group, and they look forward to your presentation.
Thank you. I'm very pleased and proud to be here tonight to talk to you about Drummond Central School, and it is indeed the place to be. So who we are 92 students strong. We have 6.5 teaching staff. We have 1.5 educational assistants. We have 7 hours per week of an instructional supervisor monitor who helps with our yard duty. We have a full-time office administrator, a split shift custodian, a 1 day per cycle learning common informationalist. We knew them as teacher librarians. And we are a core French program. We have 3 goals. Last year we moved our 7 and 8s to PDCI and worked closely to ensure that the transition went smoothly. This year is a branding year for our new JK to 6 school. So we are adapting and looking at the traditions of the school and looking critically at the programming. We continue to work with our math hubs in particular and our parents for support for all our students, encouraging the growth as well within our literacy strengths that we have displayed, which I hope to share with you this evening. And we definitely encourage our student population to be leaders, to get involved, and to stay fit. So I've called this the buzz, also known as communication. So we use traditional methods. We do monthly newsletters from the staff to parents, as well as our DCS newsletter. It's posted electronically. We use a bulletin board as well as our community boards outside. We have one outside of the building. Our agendas are connected to our family of Lanark schools. We use email, voicemail, text, messages, and a load of pictures. We are involved in social media. We use our Facebook and the website. We believe in the bring your own device to school, but we also believe that it is our job to educate our students and community on how to effectively use those electronic devices. So we partner carefully with our OPP for safe use. We have lots of student photographers to capture the learning and the fun and the everyday excitement at Drummond Central. Our resources, which we call the Honey House. We have a very active parent volunteer. We have reading program in place where they help, a music program, visual arts is strong. Community volunteers come in almost daily. We've had our junior gardeners, we have Children's Aid Society, we have our Community Living Association, Tackaberries, a local construction company, is very involved, and our Rotary Club. We have an outdoor area that is absolutely amazing. It is one of our pride and joys. In that outdoor area, we have gardens. We've started a pumpkin patch, so we went from the actual creating the patch right to seed, then to table last year. So we had pumpkin pie and all kinds of other goodies. We have chalkboards outside, we have an outdoor classroom, and we have access to the woods directly around our school. We use assistive tech. We have effectively, we still are learning a lot about our assistive tech. We have smart boards in every classroom. We do a lot of iPad training, and we're linking that with our Creating Students Pathways to Success, the new document. Our educational programming, also known as our worker bees. We have a very strong arts program, and we are infusing the outdoor philosophy. So we're bringing some of the kindergarten's joy of the outdoors into our 1 to 6. We celebrate international days like Talk Like a Pirate, and we link those to our language and math curriculum. We have a strong team. I'm very proud of our team. We have taken intensive behavior integration, autism workshops. 6 staff members out of a small school of 8 attended those workshops. Professional development is linked to our student success team and to our professional learning communities. We link closely with PDCI by putting names and faces and doing a solid transition plan for our 6, 7, 8s last year and our 6s this year, moving into 7. Last year as well, we did Reach Ahead for our grade 8s. Reach Ahead is a program where our grade 8 students gain a grade 9 a grade 9 credit by attending PDCI after their DCS school day. And last year it was the grade 9 GLS course, which is the General Learning Strategies course, which they gained their credit for. We are implementing the Empower reading program this year. This is a remediation program, and it's based on intensive research and finding from the Toronto Sick Children's Hospital to yield best long-term outcomes for our struggling readers. We are making our thinking visible, currently linking it to our study of math, attempting to transfer some of the gains we've made, that you will see later, in our reading and writing to our math, which is still lacking. Our wellness, the nectar. We celebrate with the children, encourage them to take the lead. We've had Chio bake sales. The Lanark Animal Welfare Society has benefited from some fundraising. The food bank, used clothing drives. We support Angel Tree. We celebrate the creative side of our community, National Jersey Day. Our staff wellness is something I pay particular attention to. In a small staff, it's taxing to always be going to the well. So we like to make sure that we have Wow It's Wednesday for a staff snack. We have singing telegrams on their birthday and lots of support for them. Our children love our food for thought breakfast and snack programs, and they are extremely happy with our quality daily physical education every day. And we do have Name That Tune on day 5, so if you happen to pop in, you will probably hear some good old songs from the 1960s. Our parent council for the past 2 years has led a family of schools initiative around the mental wellness, linking to our community partners of Children's Aid Society, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, lots of other wonderful, and these workshops have been extremely well attended. General McNaughton from our Kiwanis Club is also a huge supporter of our terrific kids assemblies, and that is linked closely to our vision of the place to be and our character always. And these assemblies also feature a read aloud, sometimes by me, sometimes by the children. So that's about us. So how does that stack up with the EQAO results? This slide we're hoping will indicate to you that when children do not achieve in grade 3, in reading, writing, or math, and did not meet the standard either in grade 6 reading, writing, or math, then you will see that unfortunately the relationship when they go to the grade 10 literacy test or the grade 9 math test is not a good indicator that they will pass, that they will struggle with those OSSLTs. However, for students who don't necessarily achieve in grade 3 but improve and achieve in grade 6, the rate of them completing those grade 9 and 10 literacy and math tests improves greatly. So we're trying to make sure that as our child moves through our K-6 school, that we are indeed giving them as much support as possible to achieve at the high school. So what it looks like. Our grade 3 EQAO for reading over the years has improved steadily. We had a little blip. Compared to the province, we are performing under in the last year. Our grade 3 writing, again, improving steadily. Province-wise, we are actually above at grade 3. As you can see, our math is our Achilles heel. It is what we are working on and continue to work on and pay close attention to. When we look at the grade 6 results, our grade 6 reading, where we have done a lot of focus and concentrated efforts, we have done extremely well in the last year at achieving at 100%. Our grade 6 writing, again, improving over the 4 years, and we are above the province at that. Math continues to be the one focus that we cannot seem to get a handle on and continue to work steadily to improve. When you look at our population over the 3-year period, you can see that our reading in primary is in the right direction. It's going from 49 to 61%. Same thing with writing, we are improving. Our math in our primary, unfortunately, is still not improving the way we wish. Our reading junior has improved over time, as well as our writing in the junior grade. Again, math is something that we need to continue to focus on and work at. So looking at the cohort from 3 to grade 6, the top line represents the percentage of students meeting 3 and 6 standards. So in reading, 50% of our children, in writing 42, and in math 33. The second line shows the capture rate of students not meeting the standard in 3, but did in 6. So in reading, we actually improved by 50%. In writing, we improved by 42%. We did not make any gains in the same cohort in our math. The third line shows that students that met the standard in 3 but didn't in 6, we are fine in our reading, we met that. We still have 8% that did not meet and 17 in math. And the bottom line shows that students that didn't meet the standard in either 3 or 6. Again, you can see it as our math that we really need to focus on in the upcoming year. So our strengths. We are family oriented. We are community proud. We have a large parental involvement. We have an arts focus linked to our environment. We have an excellent core French program. We have strong student leadership and an ingrained character always linked to our B theme. And at Drummond, our students have a voice. So this slide reflects our grade 1-2 classroom. I asked them to do 2 stars and a wish, 2 things that they really enjoy about Drummond, and 1 thing that they think that they really need to improve. And it's that improvement that made me smile. So they need to be more active in grade 1-2. They act kindly and they need to show that we care. We need to listen attentively and actively, and we need to learn. And they qualified it about clocks and math. So out of the voices of our children, we know that math really needs to be looked at. So our wannabe, our next steps. We are looking critically at the EQAO data as it pertains to math, and we are noticing that it is the measurement strand that is weak. So we are taking some of our strategies and that we have used on our reading and writing and planning to do that with our math. We are revisiting our instructional practices. Are we really doing everything we can, putting the names and the faces together so that we are reaching all of our children and allowing them to demonstrate what they know? We're looking critically at our resources and continue to weed. Can we make better use of them? Is there an assessment practice that we're not using that perhaps our resource can help, whether that be an iPad or other technology? We continue to look at our global days for writing, because our writing is still not quite there, and we want to make it relevant for our students, so we link it to global celebrations. And the ultimate goal is to continue to work with the family, whether it's from DCS or the family of schools in Lanark South, towards the 90% graduation rate. So Drummond Central School is definitely the place to be.
Thank you very much, Mark. I'm going to open it up to comments and questions. Trustee McPherson and Trustee Kirk.
Looking at your math results, kind of ask 2 questions here through the chair. First off, can you make a direct correlation between your UQAO results and the actual performance in the classroom? Like, is this numbers, okay, I'm looking at the grade 6 math of 33%. Is that a true reflection of what those kids are learning, or is that simply a snapshot?
Through the chair, I would say that it is a combination of both. We are dealing with children, and our children are very honest with us. They aren't enjoying math. They find it a difficult subject. And so we are attempting to engage them more. We are using the hubs, our math exploration, our inquiry that we're doing as an entire board to engage our children in that critical thinking piece. What we are finding when we're looking at the data is they're not able to handle the open response questions in math. They sort of say, okay, I'm done, we've got this, but they haven't expanded it, or they don't take it that extra step. So we're trying to practice those type of skills. So I'm thinking it's both.
Yeah. So you are taking remedial measures, so to speak.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, you've answered both questions.
Thank you. Trustee Kartner.
Thank you for the presentation. Excellent one. The honey of the job.
Thank you.
I'd like to compliment you or congratulate you on the use of the Upper Canada logo on a lot of the materials that you're sending home to your parents. It's something that the trustees are very adamant about having all of our communication going out from our schools with the logo on it, and I've seen you've used it on your slides as well as on your parent letter home, so congratulations on that. It sounds like it's a great place to learn, and that playground is exceptional, as you said, with all the things you're able to have in it, so thank you for your presentation.
Other comments, questions? Mr. McDonald?
Maybe you said it, but I missed it. What's the enrollment at the school?
92 students,
92?
yes.
Your school success plan. You have culture of care as your primary piece. You indicate that you're ensuring that every member of your school community feels safe, valued, included, and supported as a learner as we transition to a JK to 6 environment. How are you doing that now? Because I don't know that I see that. It doesn't jump out at me within your report here.
So we surveyed, through the chair, we surveyed the students in September and asked them what activities and events they felt that we should continue traditionally. We asked them where they thought that they would like to see some growth. As a parent community, our parent council went through a similar exercise. So they too answered questions. Now that we are K-6, what are some of the opportunities that our 6s may be able to benefit as leaders? So growing that leadership for them. We've looked at the programming to ensure that what has gone previously from perhaps the 7 and 8, was there something there that the 6s could benefit from? So things like our morning announcements, grade 6s have gone through a system where we could ask them to write the announcements themselves, so we're practicing those writing skills, and then they are using the announcements as a way to present. They run our school assemblies, so again, organizational skills to teach them how to do those things.
So you've collected data.
Mm-hmm.
Were you able to identify any specifics that you need to work on?
I don't think there was things to work on. I think the grade 6s were very eager to take on some of the leadership roles that were traditionally the 7 and 8s. So they changed the focus. There's more teaching of those leadership skills, more preparation in order for them to succeed.
Okay, but the culture of care doesn't really deal about grade 6 students solely. It deals with the entire student body and ensuring that they feel safe, valued, included, and supported. So you've done the review, you've received information, you wanted to make sure your grade 6s are there. You should have, I would believe, some data to support areas that you need to improve on if it's a particular school success plan target, but yet it's not in your next steps.
Through the chair, I apologize for that. I didn't quite explain that. So from the data, the students also indicated to us that primaries, traditionally kindergartens, grade 1, grade 2s, don't have a lot of opportunities to get involved as well in school. So they've created specific activities that they can lead for those primary students. So they also feel included. So our Talk Like a Pirate Day, our International Talk Like a Pirate Day, we developed maps. Then the maps were at different levels so that the kindergartens could participate. So they had a treasure map to follow on the schoolyard. We went outside. The activities were linked to their read aloud that we had done, as well as to the math that they were working on at that time within there. So the students developed all that and then created that for the kindergartens.
You've identified some key areas within the EQAO that you need to improve upon. In your school success plan, you talk about exceptional programming, ensuring it focused on being a learning community for staff, students, and parents. Do you believe that covers enough of what you're looking to do within the EQAO improvements? Is that specific enough, I guess, is what I'm getting at?
Through the chair, I don't believe that the goals meet what we're achieving right now or just striving to achieve right now. We are in the process of looking at those goals again. So what we were attempting to do with that exceptional programming is we have a very strong parental involvement. Some of our parents just don't know how to help their child. So what we try to do through our student success team meetings and our conversations with our parents is to give them some activities at home that they could do to support their child as well, to achieve those goals. So we are essentially looking at the school success plan, and we are going to be updating it and changing it.
I just would like to extend Mark's answer,
Certainly,
if I may.
certainly, go ahead.
Just from the point of view of, I'm learning in the last few months myself, and one of the things that I have come to understand is one of the goals of the Junior Math Hub work is to improve teacher efficacy in the instruction of math. So teachers need to believe that they can be math teachers. And you can't flip that switch overnight. It's a cultural change in how teachers approach their learning and their teaching. And so, in as much as Principal Fritz has mentioned, supporting the parents in their learning and also the students, there's a piece for the staff as well, particularly on the math side, and I think that's quite pertinent to your scores with the strategy or the philosophy behind the Math Hub work is the teacher efficacy piece, and so really creating a learning community for teachers as well, and for the purpose of improving instruction. Thank you.
Mr. McAllister.
Thank you, Mark, for your frank and honest assessment of the whole situation at your school, but in particular to the EQAO results, which I frankly abhor talking about, but I'm going to break my cardinal rule and talk about it. And I don't know if the question is so much for you, but I do applaud the fact that you have identified the several areas in the math curriculum, for example, where you are proceeding, to improve. But I guess my question, Chair, is to the director. EQAO results across the province in math are below normal. It begs the question, is there something wrong with A, the curriculum, or B, EQAO, and C, when EQAO was first introduced, was there not a promise to support schools and boards who were having difficulty meeting targets? And are we getting the assistance that was promised, is what I'm asking.
Through you, Chair, I'll begin the response, and then perhaps Superintendent Allen can help me out. The ministry, I would say that their initial focus was on the improvement of our reading and writing scores. So their early focus when EQAO first was established, and we started to get a few years of scores, we certainly had an infusion of support on the literacy side. More recently, we have a commitment by the ministry to support on the maths, maintain the focus on literacy, but also support on the math side. And Superintendent Allen can speak to some of those initiatives. I think that the other thing that, and Marg referenced this a bit in her presentation, is there's been a tremendous change in the not only the data, but the information that can be mined from EQAO assessment. And that really guides improvement and guides practice. As long as schools, under the leadership of the principal, actually roll up their sleeves and take a look at all of the information that they can glean from the assessment beyond the scores that are presented in our school success presentations. So there is certainly a commitment, and I think they have they've been pretty true to following through with that commitment with resources and support. I go back to the teacher efficacy piece, and we have put our resources into that basket, and it's research based, and we need to improve the confidence and the capacity of our teachers, particularly in the elementary front, in order to see an improvement in instruction, and we have devoted considerable resources to doing so. But I wonder if Superintendent Allen could identify some of the particular supports that we've been able to utilize here in Upper Canada.
Through you, Chair. We have the EQAO, in response to the first part of the question, is to be a measure of the curriculum and the assessing the curriculum, and you're quite right, Trustee McAllister, across the province we're noticing the same trend. What we in Upper Canada have identified as an area of need and focus is proportional reasoning. That's not a math strand. That comes through all math strands. And also, I think, as Principal Fritz has identified, that whole problem solving and the three-step problem solving is another area that is a need, and that would come through all math strands. So to see it marked specifically on one strand in EQAO, you might not see that. And it does take time to turn that tide, but in Upper Canada, we have definitely focused on those, starting specifically last year with our math. You've heard the term math hubs in the past, and they started to take a turn last year, focusing on these specific areas that we mine through by looking at questions that students are from EQAO, but also school-based work as well, classroom-based work. In response to the question of what supports are we getting from the ministry, in this past year, we are getting a lot of supports now. This Friday, a team of us are going to the regional ministry meeting. It's called System Implementation Monitoring, and the complete focus is on math for that day. And then we as a school board team have met, our leadership team, and have been looking at those pieces. The two leaders, Scott Corden and Mike Kennedy, who are leading our math program resource teachers, are part of this, and looking at how we can change and mold our instructions to meet the needs of the curriculum and also support teachers in the classrooms. The other, at the end of this month, we have actually a couple of people from the ministry coming and meeting specifically with us in Upper Canada, the student success leader, and as well as our ministry SAO, Diane Jackson, to help us have a look at what we're doing and what do we need to do differently. Not specific school by school, but sort of system-wide, and then it's our job to dig into school by school, which we have been looking at. I guess the other response to that is this year in our math work, although we are still doing math hubs in every school, there has been some levels of differentiation across our system, where some schools might have two of our program resource teachers going and working with them. Some schools have a little more attention paid to them in terms of the math hub, smaller groupings, so that we can reach more teachers across our system. So that's sort of some pictures from the system as well as the province. So we're encouraged by our work. We know we have to set the bar at the next level. How do we go to the next level? And that's part of the work that we're going to be doing with the ministry Friday and again at the end of this month and moving forward. They're very committed to helping and supporting us to go that next step.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Superintendent Allen. Any other questions, comments? Principal Fritz, thank you so much for coming here. Give our best to your staff and thank them for their hard work and dedication to our kids. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
The next group that we have, and I know that both of these groups were eager to present to us 2 weeks ago. This school probably more so than the other because our trustee told us I think they're chomping at the bit to do this. So I'm going to again turn this over to Director Patterson, and I'm going to ask Front of Young to come forward. And
Thank you. It's my pleasure to welcome Principal Amanda Nyman to the table. Amanda is the principal of Front of Young Elementary School in Mallorytown. And again, a very vibrant school with a tremendous community and a great trustee as well. So,
did he pay you?
So Amanda, welcome. And I also want to recognize Marnie Lindsay is here. Marnie is the CAP for the Brockville family, and Front of Young School is part of the Brockville family. So appreciate you being here, Marnie, as well.
And if I could just extend a thank you, I have Carla Bangma here with me, who's a kindergarten teacher at Front of Young. I also have 2 others who caught the flu watching from home, and several members of parent council, so I'll just give them a little hello. Well, thank you so much for having me. As was sort of joked about in the beginning, we had some weather that didn't cooperate with me being able to come and share the very exciting work that we all think is happening at Front of Young Elementary School. So I am the very proud principal of Front of Young Elementary School. I wanted to start by saying that as a baseline, one of the things I'd like you to know most about us, and you would think you should take it for granted in a school, but I think it's worth saying, we are an extremely student-centric place to be. This is a photo of most of the members of the Student Council. We have 43 members who are currently part of our Student Council from grades 2 through 6. So they take an active role in working with me directly to help to shape where our school is going and our understanding of what their voices think about where education is and what they need to be successful. So Front of Young, as Charlotte said, is located in Mallorytown. We have 132 students and 15 staff members. We are a proud member of the Brockville family of schools. We serve junior kindergarten to grade 6 students with a regular French program. We have had full-day kindergarten since 2013, and part of our excitement around our capture rate is that we brought Campus Kids to Front of Young since this past September. Campus Kids is a daycare that offers before and after care for our families, and with it being a somewhat rural environment, that's been very helpful in maintaining families within the Front of Young community. Speaking of the community, we have very active community connections, and I've just listed a few of them there. Again, from a capture rate perspective, this is tremendous assistance for us because word of mouth is truly our #1 draw. We are the hub of the community and all of the people who surround us, including businesses, the township office. Everybody takes an active role in supporting our students. And our trustee, as has been pointed out, is John McAllister. So what I've tried to do is, short of being able to bring all of you to Front of Young School, I've tried to bring it to you. I'm going to start with our school success plans, which I'm also going to refer to as our next steps. I feel that the two should be one and the same. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how we came to decide what our school success plan goals should be and how we're trying to address the needs that we feel are important. So our entire staff consulted 3 main sources of data together closer to the beginning of this school year. We looked at EQAO data. We also maintain a very active electronic data wall that contains data that we look at not every day, but fairly regularly, things like reading scores, report card data, whether or not someone has an individual education plan, what kinds of services they're using, what forms of assistive technology they're using. Try and create a picture of our learners. And then probably our most important driver right now is the daily classroom assessment. So that comes in the form of teachers looking at observation, conversation, and product from our students The combination of those three things, we feel, really gives us a good sense of a better encompassing look at our student body, as opposed to strictly looking at one source. So looking a little bit at that first level of data that I talked about, EQAO data, this is our cohort tracking. And we feel really strongly at Front of Young, as do most schools, that this is really an important piece of data. So looking at the same group of learners as they've gone from grade 3 to grade 6. And at Front of Young, traditionally, when they start with us, they stay with us. So we're looking at a fairly similar group of students from 3 to 6. The one piece that we find alarming is the line of students that met the standard in 3 but not in 6. So we do have some higher numbers there than we would like. And that really prompted us to more questions. You're going to find as I move through this that we as a staff have a lot of questions that we're trying to work together on to find out what's going on. So the main one is, who are these learners? Taking a little bit of a deeper look at our EQAO data, what's specifically happening at Front of Young. The middle column is a 5-year average. And as you can see, we were trending fairly nicely in most areas. Certainly, as Principal Fritz referenced, we are looking at math as an area of improvement. So then we looked at 2013, 2014. And we said, what happened in 2013, 2014? We decided to dig deeper into last year's EQAO data and really with a lens on what trends do we see that may potentially connect our 13-14 data to some of perhaps the areas that we could work on from previous years as well. So really looking at what trends stick out. So again, with full staff involvement, these are the conclusions that we drew from our EQAO data, and it's really interesting. So despite the decrease in results, the majority of our students are achieving levels 2 and 3. And when I say majority, last year we had 2 students achieving at level 1. The other thing we did, which was really neat, is EQAO breaks it down into points, decimal points. And so when we just took all of our students who achieved 2.9, in reading, writing, and math, what we found is that our scores very quickly shifted into the 80s in reading, the 90s in writing, and the high 60s in math. And again, that's both grades 3 and 6, and just looking at the students who achieved 2.9. So that was kind of a curiosity for us. Another major trend was across all strands. Our students did very well on multiple choice questions. They struggled with open response. So that leads us to the question, how do we help students make their thinking visible to others in ways that make sense to others? So 13-14 at Front of Young, we spent a lot of time working with students on how to make their thinking visible. So what's going on inside those heads that we can find a variety of ways to try and pull out and see what the students actually know and are thinking about. Where we've moved it to is, how do they make that thinking visible in a way that other people can understand and make sense of? So our final conclusion is we don't think it'll take much to make the shift in our EQAO scores. Many of our students are right there, but still, out of the plethora of things you can focus on, our question is, what should we focus on? And let's develop our school success plan goals. So the way that I've organized this is I'll do the goal on one slide, and then we'll look at the action plan, and then we'll look at how we're measuring each goal. So our first goal is around making student thinking visible, and we're really striving to improve student achievement and engagement by developing higher order thinking skills, so things like problem solving and critical thinking, and learning more about, as educators, the role of assessment for. What are students showing us in the moment that can drive us to what we need to do as educators to be responsive to that? And assessment as, which we feel is a really important piece, students being able to self-assess as to where they are, and against some learning goals and success criteria, figure out where they need to go next. So again, our big question, how can we move our level 2 scores to level 3? This is how we intend to do it. I'm just going to highlight, I've tried to provide photographic evidence for you of things that we're working on, but I won't speak to every piece. We have our resources down the side, which are things that we're using to help us develop our efficacy as educators. We have all of our staff involved in professional learning teams, one in primary and one in junior. We are involved with the MISA work that Superintendent Dawes is heading up, so managing information for student achievement fits really well with our goal right now. And the other thing we've really focused on at Front of Young is what's on our walls. What are we putting up to be visible to students, and why are we doing it, and how does it potentially promote student learning? So this is how we're measuring goal number 1 of assessment for and as learning, and how will we know we're making any difference or gains in this direction? So we're looking at student work, and we are predominantly focused on how we are getting the students to be able to share their thinking with us in a variety of different ways, but from an EQAO perspective, on paper. How are we getting them to get it out in ways that others can understand? So I've just given you 2 pieces of evidence here. On the right, it's the same student's work, and this teacher has worked very effectively through working with the students to create some success criteria and learning goals for writing. And as you can see, from September until December, without even being that close to it, there's been a significant improvement in the student work. And the other, I wanted to bring you some student voices. These are 2 students, this is not scripted, who are talking about how they're using the success criteria that's been built with their teacher to move their own learning forward.
Hi guys. Hi. So I'm just looking at this chart on your wall, and I'm wondering if you can tell me a little bit about how you use that.
Okay, so we use all these things on this chart paper to take the math thing out of our mind and put it on paper so other people can just get it right away. Get what we're doing right away.
Can you give me an example of one of the success criteria that you used today?
Okay, so I used to always forget to use pictures and maybe words, but I always put the numbers on. So this always reminded me to use pictures and words. So,
awesome. And then Maddie, can you show me your math problem solving for today?
And just look at what's on that page.
And tell me a little bit about it.
We got a question about 9 kids in a pool, 8 more jumped in, and then we used the 10 strategy.
So as you can see, some pretty, I feel, important evidence, and there's some conversation and some product for you about how our students are beginning to understand what good looks like and driving their own learning to the next step. So school success plan goal number 2, we're looking at self-regulation. So how does students' readiness to learn, both emotionally and physically, impact student achievement? Our goal is to improve student achievement and motivation through the development and understanding of students' self-regulation skills. So are students ready to learn? Our action plan, again, we have a couple of resources that we're looking at as a whole school team. And then we're looking at the role of outdoor education, nutrition, physical activity, and students understanding through a program called Zones, how they're feeling in the moment, and them developing with the adults some toolkits to get them to a space where they are able to learn and ready to learn. This is a variety of ways that we're measuring our self-regulation goal. I just highlighted 2 that we've noticed a significant difference in since implementing our Zones programming and looking at things like nutrition trays for all students available all the time, our outdoor classrooms, outdoor play, yoga. We've had decreased office referrals, and we're starting to see an increase in the student and staff vocabulary that incorporates the vocabulary of our program zones, along with all those other things. Our goal number 3 is to promote 2-way communication with our families. So we feel for a long time the culture of school has really been that the school tells the families everything, and we don't have a lot of reciprocal conversations with them. So our 3rd goal is that all members of our school community will benefit from effective communication that supports student learning, achievement, and wellness. and we will increase the student support network for learning. So we really feel that in engaging our parents and our students' families, that network of support does improve student achievement because there's a clear communication between school and home. So under that, you'll see our action plan for moving toward the goal. And we're measuring it, again, in a variety of different ways as listed up there. The two that I've highlighted are that in the last couple of years, we've risen to 15 parents as part of our school council, which is pretty amazing given that we have 132 students. That number has been growing every year. And the parent council or school council has been instrumental in assisting with capture rate. They love Front of Young School. They talk about it all the time. And me being able to bounce things by them has been really helpful. We also have 286 likes on Facebook, and again, with 132 students, we feel that that's important. Where that links to two-way communication is our parents are starting to post questions or to post their own pictures that they've taken of things their students are doing, their children are doing at home, and sending it back to us to let us know what's happening. This is how we bring it all together. Our school success plan, it looks like this. It's at the front of our school as soon as you walk in. As a leader, I believe that I need to model the things that I want my staff to be doing. So this is the type of bulletin board that we would like to see throughout our school. Again, the focus being on observation, conversation, and product to get at what the whole student story is. And the way it's set up is we have 3 goals listed, the 3 white pieces of paper. We have photos and evidence of our action, and then we also have photos and evidence of the movement that we're making toward the goals. So as you can see, we have been investing a lot in assessment for and as learning. We need to get a little more evidence up there with regards to the communication goal. The other thing we did, again, with our 43 student council members, is we worked with them to articulate what our school success plan goals mean to them as students. We feel very strongly at Front of Young that we can't work in isolation of our students. They need to know why we feel it's important to focus on certain things, and we want their voice as a response to that. So what they did is they worked as teams to take the school success plan goal, try to understand it, let me know if they thought it was something that made sense to them, and then get it back to me in language that made sense to them as students.
We're going to understand how we're feeling, so we're ready to learn.
Going to understand how we're feeling, so we're ready to learn. Can't make it much more simple than that. That was goal 2, self-regulation. So our strengths, the way that I've opted to do this is I really wanted to give you the question that we're asking with regard to each of our C, R, E, and W, and then highlight one sort of big idea around the strengths rather than, again, sharing each piece of data with you. So our big question around communication is what methods of communication will best support student achievement, parent involvement, and wellness. And for us at Front of Young, our big idea strengths is really that we use a combination of technology and more traditional methods. Basically, we uncover a lot of data about how our parents are able to communicate with us. We have a number of people who do not have access to the internet. So we need to make sure that we're addressing our parental needs in a variety of different ways. Resources. Our big question is what resources or materials will best support and deepen the learning for students? Again, we have smartboards in every classroom and iPads in every classroom, but really our strength, I think, is around intentionality. We use what we think the students need in the moment based on what they're showing us to improve student achievement. It may not be an iPad or a smartboard. It may be shaving cream on a table. For educational programming, our big question is how can we help students make their thinking visible so that it makes sense to other people? And there, our big idea strength at Front of Young is we're getting very good, I think, at linking the marvelous, amazing inquiry-based learning that the kids are doing with skills-based learning so that we have a balance in how students are being given the opportunity to achieve. Wellness. How does a focus on student wellness promote confidence and risk-taking for learning? So again, we're trying to draw back always to student achievement. And we really believe that in offering a variety of different wellness opportunities for students, they do grow in their confidence, and that really connects to their ability to take risks for learning. And along the bottom, you see 3 boards. The evidence of our wellness opportunities, those are all photographs that are posted to show the students and remind them of the things that they've been involved with. And you should see, I sometimes have to spend just time in the hall shooing the students past the wellness boards because they love to stop and take a peek and often tell stories and laugh about the things that they've done. So we would love for you to come and visit us at Funny Young Elementary School. Who can resist those 2 faces? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Comments, questions? Trustee McAllister. Trustee McAllister from that area.
Thank you, Amanda, for an excellent presentation. I think it's when I visit your school as well as others, one of the things that I have noted very clearly, and it's a credit to you, the director, and the staff, and our principals, is the fact that there's a very obvious effort to make student learning and thinking visible, and I appreciate that very much. I'm going to ask a rather different question, though. That was my comment. My question is, at the parent council meeting last week, 3 topics, at least 2 topics were mentioned. One was the use of the agency Big Brothers Big Sisters. The second one was the Boys Club, which you instituted. And the third is the relationship between your grade 1 class last year, Mrs. Bagman's, who was here, Mrs. Bagman's grade 1 class, and NASCAR's Martin Truex. Could you comment on that and explain it for the benefit of my colleagues?
On each of those things?
Yes, please.
Through you, Chair? Well, maybe I'll start at the number 3, and I promised Carla that she wouldn't have to speak tonight, so I'll take one for the team. Mrs. Bangma's own children have had a very active involvement with Martin Truex over their lifetime. In fact, at dinner tonight before coming here, she was talking about the trip that they're taking there this summer to NASCAR. And so she brought that. Mrs. Bangma has embraced the concept of inquiry learning and connecting that to skills-based learning. So she had her students get into contact with Martin Truex, who is a NASCAR driver. And lo and behold, he began a dialogue with her grade 1 class. So she would do things like, for example, the grade 1 math curriculum states that the students need to explore ordinal numbers. So she would do that by setting up a race track in her classroom, and the students would race their cars, and I came first, I came second. And so and then Mrs. Bangma would link that. Yes, you did, you came first. So Martin actually not only sent them written messages, but created video messages for them. And you just can't even imagine the joy and enthusiasm and excitement that these students had in anything they had to put on paper, as long as it was going to Martin Truex. And that's where we began to really explore the connection between the power of inquiry learning, and when they're excited about it, guess what? They don't groan and moan when they have to put it on paper. So yeah, if you ever want to see it in action, she's the one to come and visit. The Boys Club came out of what I felt I was seeing it in our data. Every second recess, the boys were getting into trouble, and a lot of trouble. So frankly, I was tired of dealing with it. So I brought them in and I said, why? Tell me what's happening. And their response was, recess is too long. 40 minutes is too long. So I started with a pretty small group of students, just taking them to the gym for the first recess every day, which is 40 minutes long, and they would just shoot hoops. And over time, we've had more and more students request to join. We want to make sure always that if they're not going outside, that they are engaging in some sort of physical activity. But what that allows me to do is I have a really interesting space to observe as a principal. So it's well controlled, but I can let them go and engage in their basketball, and I start to see where, I get it, why you have a problem on the yard, because every time somebody comes within this much space of you, you whack them. So it's become a really neat thing. They absolutely love it. My office administrator is frustrated because if I'm ever not in the building, she gets 18 boys coming down to her every day. Is she back yet? Is she back yet? So now the principal's designates, of which Carla is also one, they get to run Boys Club when I'm not there. But we also work through some really interesting problem solving. We incorporate the zones work that I was talking about in terms of self-regulation. And the students are gaining confidence. One little guy who was always in trouble. And it came out that he felt that he didn't belong at front of Young, that everybody else belonged, but not him. Well, they've now, I can't say his name because I don't want to give anything away, but they've reduced his name to the first 3 letters, and it's like a cool name, and he shoots hoops and he gets baskets, and he's gained this different status within the school. So it's been really interesting. I really have no idea where it's going to go next, but it's been a great process. Now, what was the first one?
Boys and girls.
Boys and big brothers, big sisters. We've been very fortunate. We have a teacher at our school who took a very active interest in Big Brothers Big Sisters, and this particular teacher has arranged for all kinds of different opportunities for our students, from indoor shoes to making sure that anybody who can't afford to have hot lunch gets hot lunch. And they do come into the school to run a Game On program with our boys and a girls program for our girls. They separate them out, and again, the students have an opportunity to work with younger mentors around how to solve problems and how to talk to other people and how to behave in a restaurant and all kinds of different things. So it's been a really, really fantastic opportunity for our students, and again, another really strong community support.
Thank you, Lynn.
Do you have any room for a problem child in a boys club?
Through you, Chair.
No, when I was pointing this way, you know, it's David McDonald right away. You mean me?
Oh, I thought you meant John McAllister.
Well, I was, but we have someone else who wants in the club too, I can see. Any more comments or questions? Trustee McDonald.
Yeah, I was just going to ask for availability. No, just I like your presentation. I like the way you've tied in your goals and your school success plan. The question I have is more around, you've got some steps in place. The first one really deals with a lot of, you've got the visible piece, but the true results come out once a year.
Yeah.
What are you planning on doing to try and evaluate that more than once a year to determine whether you've got to right the ship or not, even with some of the other goals as well?
As far as the assessment for learning and assessment as learning goal goes, part of what we do is frequently, a lot of the EQAO problems in math are ones that we would typically present to our students. So we're presenting those in a way that we can gather data back to see how they do on those individual prompts and problems. And essentially what it's continuing to show us is that when we give them an opportunity to talk to other people before they formulate their response, the response that they put on paper is really, really good. When they don't have that opportunity, which is the case in EQAO, it's not. So we're now having to, what we've opted to do at this particular point in time, and if you ask me next week, I would probably answer you differently based on what we've seen in that week. The success criteria that we're trying to build with the students is to show them their responses, and the teachers are having conversations with the students about what they see in their own work that makes it good. And then they're recording that on a success criteria chart, and conferencing with the students. So when they present something they've worked on independently, the teacher conferences with them. The students look at the success criteria chart and determine which of those is going to be their own goal. And they go back and they try and improve it. And they may have that same goal for 3 weeks or a month, but we're really trying to get it so that it becomes more of a habit, so that when they go to put something on paper, they have some idea of what good looks like. But honestly, like I say, next week I might answer that a little bit differently, because what they're showing us in the moment is really how we then adjust to try and meet that.
But I think that's important, is that you do adjust based on the outcomes of that given time. Because if you maintain a particular plan and put any results that you might gain through that, you're not really achieving what you're trying to achieve. So it's important. I mean, I as long as you've got a process in place, that's the important piece. What the plan looks like today is not really the big piece. It's the process that you have to develop that as you move along. So that's good. I congratulate you on that.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? You know, the school presentations, Amanda, thank you so much. The school presentations are part of the accountability framework, and they are a key result indicator. And what they do is they come to the board, so we get a good indication as to the effectiveness that each school is doing in terms of the strategic plan. So we use it as a key result indicator. But in a conversation I had earlier in the week with Trustee McPherson, he made a really good point. These are valuable presentations. They're valuable to us at the board table. They'd be invaluable to your communities. And I say this to both you and Marg tonight, and to any of the other principals that have presented. You put a lot of work into this stuff, and I would hope that either you take the clips from the board meetings or in person, you make these presentations to your school communities, because really what it shows is the confidence that you have, your staff has, in terms of what you're doing with these kids. And when we talk about finding ways of getting a capture rate and bringing people in, people would be very hard pressed to not listen to these presentations and say, wow, it'd be hard to say I don't want to go there, because you certainly sell it with confidence. I want to thank both schools for being here tonight. Carla, we've got to come out and watch that. That sounds pretty cool. I like the shaving cream stuff, but that one caught my attention. Thank you so much for being here and supporting your school. And I want to thank Marnie and Jeff at CAPS for being here. I think that's really important. So thank you very much. Now, I always extend an invitation for all of you to stick around. But you're more than welcome to leave. But thank you so much for being here. We appreciate safe travels. And again, thank you.
Thanks for having us.
You're very welcome. Great. Moving on to the next part in the agenda. Back in mid-June of 2014, the Board of Trustees approved the 2014-2015 original budget. And it was based on estimates at that point in time. But like any budget, it's fluid, and there are fine-tuning or adjustments that have to be made. So at this point, I'm going to ask Superintendent of Business Nancy Barkley to give us the revised budget estimate report. And I will turn that over to you, but hang on for 1 second while we get a few of our trustees back. We don't have a quorum just yet, so including our director. So just, Lisa would say to me, stay calm. How am I doing? Good. Okay, so I've just, for those of you that were in the hall, we've just moved on, and I've just turned it over to Superintendent Nancy Barkley, who is going to give us the revised estimate presentation. And so go ahead and
Thank you, Chair McMillan.
As the chair already introduced the topic, to let you know that this is really the first financial forecast for the 2014-15 fiscal year since we first saw the budget, which the Board of Trustees approved in June of 2014. So I'm just going to take you through the highlights, and what it's really doing in this presentation is presenting what our latest projection is based on the latest information we have compared with what we originally thought in the spring. And this forecast, by the way, is based upon our revised estimates, which is a ministry term we need to or are required to submit to the Ministry of Education by the middle of December, revised budget for the fiscal year. It is not something that needs approval by the Board of Trustees, but certainly is information that the trustees need to see. Just to orient trustees, and you've seen this slide before, this is to depict our business cycle throughout the year. And so I've talked about the original budget, which is at the far left, 2014-15 back in June. The last time, or since then, you've seen the financial statements, which were brought to you in November. And the first financial forecast or revised estimates is typically presented to the board in December or January, in this case, January. And you will see the next forecast is slated to come around March of this year. So it's difficult to talk about finances without talking about our enrollment. And this picture just depicts that our enrollment as of October 31st and projected March, and by the way, these numbers are as of November 21st. This shows the enrollment change or projected change from the original estimates. A very slight reduction, but it should be noted that at the time that the numbers are needed to prepare the revised estimates for the Ministry of Education is prior to the Ministry's requirement from our planning department to submit to them the final October numbers, which is the end of December. The point being there that all of the October numbers were not necessarily finalized at this point in time, on November 21st, in particular TR Léger numbers. So this is just at one point in time, and I understand from talking with our planning department that the numbers and the projection have even improved from what you're seeing on the slide. To break it down a little further, you will see that on our elementary panel and adult day school, very minimal increases in our projections. The main change is in our secondary panel in pupils of the board, 119 ADE change. However, in our other pupils section, where we have our international education students and our Akwesasne students, both of which pay tuition to the board, we have a partial offset in that we have an increase there of about 71 students. So still a net decrease, which of course impacts the calculation of our grant for revised estimates. So this is a high-level view of the income statement for the board. And what it is showing is that as of November, the end of November versus the original budget, yes, our revenue is projected to go down, has gone down, mainly because of the enrollment change, which drives the funding reduction. Also incorporated in there is some offset from the tuition fees, and as well, because by the time we do the revised estimates, we know so much more about what our final results were from the previous fiscal year, which we don't know at the time we strike the budget. There's also help in the revenue section for some EPO grants or education program, other grants that were unspent in 13-14. We are allowed to move ahead to 14-15 and will use this year. So administration has worked to look at our expenses for this year, have been able to get the expenses also down, projected to be down, almost to the extent of the reduction in revenue. The ways in which that occurred, again, we have increased spending there that you don't see, but embedded in there are the EPOs that I talked about with the revenue, so we plan to spend those. But I think of most significance there is the strategy that we used for teacher staffing, where after April, when we must provide the staffing allocations to schools, there were no staff allocated from that point to the beginning of September, until we had more comfort in what the true numbers would be. In addition to that, the planning department, along with human resources and principals and superintendents, worked diligently this year, not that they haven't before, but they've really delved into this to talk with principals, and I believe particularly at the secondary panel, to look at ways in which to timetable more efficiently, ways to staff schools rather than just automatically adding staff. And as a result of that, within our budget in the spring, there was an amount for teacher staffing that, because of their diligence, we did not have to use a good chunk of it. As well, the hiring freeze that this board put into place early in the fall caused or resulted in some favorability on that line as well, on the expense line. So the bottom line being that our projection for the year has increased, or has improved, by about $100,000, and that's the view of pre-compliance. So this is the typical income statement. I think this is the point to also point out that it is a projection, as I've already said, probably more than once, at a point in time. So I think it's good to keep in mind that there are still opportunities and risks that are out there for this year. And on the opportunity side, we still have our semester 2 enrollment to come in. We also have the opportunity that we will reflect what the actual October numbers have finally come in at. There's always the risk on the enrollment side too, with second semester. Some other opportunities, there still could be more EPOs come our way. We could have improvement in our WSIB payments. We could have lower benefit claims than we anticipated. The point here is that there are opportunities that could come into play. Similarly, WSIB benefits, those are also risks. They could go the other way. Also, we are closely monitoring our department and our school budgets throughout the year. So to look at compliance, yes, we are still compliant in terms of the ministry's rules as we were at budget time. We're more compliant than we were, if you would, that there is improvement of about $230,000. So this slide, most trustees have seen this before, where for in-year revenues and expenses for compliance purposes, there are adjustments that are made to those amounts, which are based on ministry rules, where we exclude school-generated funds, for example, because they're not part of our audited financial statements. Significant changes on the expense line. We have to add in the funding that we are committed to for our employee future benefits, most significant portion of that being retirement gratuities. So when we come down to the in-year deficit for compliance purposes, so we had a surplus in our income statement, and now after compliance, or for compliance, we have a deficit because of that extra funding that we need to do. We're projecting a $2.8 million a deficit, which is an improvement. So we are still compliant by about $350,000 relative to the threshold. And as well, we are compliant in our administration and governance envelope. So So moving ahead, this is the first page or first slide of 2 for what's called Schedule 5, or our accumulated surplus, the equity section of our balance sheet. This is one we talked about when we were talking about the target for accumulated surplus. So these are the projected changes. You'll see the operating accumulated surplus available for compliance unappropriated, projected at this point to be $2.4 million. As you move down the slide, the changes, the in-year increases and decreases, the most significant of which is the CUP line, computer upgrade project, where this is a year where we plan to refresh our computers, and that is 2/3 of the cost of the refresh that we had previously appropriated for that purpose. The classroom line that reflects our school budget surpluses at the end of the year. We've projected there that we believe the balance may go down a bit. It may go up a little bit. What we truly believe is that it's not likely to return to the high levels that they were a year or two ago. But again, that's just a projection of how we're at this point in time reflecting our equity and how we're distributing it. So coming right down to the bottom then, you will see that we're projecting an accumulated deficit or surplus available for compliance of $5.1 million, whereas it was just slightly less than that at original estimates. I believe it was 4.9 million. So moving to the next section, this is where these are the items or the surplus portion that is unavailable for compliance. So here is where we've seen this before, where we're reflecting the amount of the funding required for employee future benefits. So the employee future benefits retirement gratuity liability, that shows the planned funding of the $4 million that we're committed to each year. The others moving down, not any change from the original estimates. The interest recalculated based upon whatever our debt is and whatever the accrued interest is at the end of the year, which is a timing thing. School generated funds, we did more analysis on that area and believe that the balance will be down very slightly, not significant for school generated funds. The revenues recognized for land shows a significant increase. That is really just an offset to the asset on the balance sheet. It's because it isn't available for compliance and it isn't a depreciable asset. So because of our Cornwall and Kempville projects, that amount is increased and of course fully funded. So moving right down to the bottom line, you will see the 5.3 million that matches the income statement that I showed you earlier in the presentation, the surplus. We are still projecting, even though it shows $10.8 million accumulated deficit, we're still projecting for 14-15 to have improved upon where we started the year, which was $16.1 million deficit. So apart from that's really all I have to present, and open to questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Comments, questions? Mr. McAllister?
I want to ask you a question, Nancy, with regard to the accumulated surplus available for compliance, which you refer to as a reserve fund, correct?
Previously a reserve fund.
Previously.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
In, I believe it was June, or maybe it was September, October, we adjusted the target rate from 0.95% to 0.5% of the board's annual operating allocation, as well as a minimum of 2% of the board's annual operating allocation available for compliance. Is that correct?
Yeah, we agreed on those targets to be the targets that we would strive towards and come back with a plan to achieve.
Right. I guess now my question is, how are we doing, in a nutshell?
Through you, Mr. Chair. At this point in time, we are always trying to improve the financial picture. We haven't come back to you yet with a long-term plan to achieve those ultimate targets. However, the numbers that are showing there right now, so the 2.4 million at the top for the unappropriated available for compliance is about 0.7 to 0.8%. Our target is, we set a minimum of 0.5%. So we're in good shape there in comparison to the target. The other measurement down at the bottom was the amount available for compliance at number 3, the very bottom line. There, when we look at the 5.1 and we take away the commitments that we agreed to, we are sitting at about 1.5%. So we're below that target we have that we agreed to of 2%. So that's about where we're sitting.
Thank you for your hard work.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions?
I just want to follow up on Trustee McAllister's thanks to Superintendent Barkley for her hard work. There's an entire army of people. Well, no, it's a very small battalion, and a significant piece of the battalion is sitting in the back row back there, Michael Law, who works in our finance department and is key for this budget work. But I think the other thing I'd like to point out is that the senior team has been very much involved in the work that Nancy has presented this evening, and we are totally committed to finding any savings that we can that does not impact student learning and classroom instruction. So, the senior team we've had many meetings and many discussions, and we've all stepped up to the plate in that regard. And I think, quite frankly, at the end of the year, I think we will be able to have, delivered some pretty positive results to folks. But there's no doubt about it. It's Nancy's diligence and leadership in that regard that has got us to where we are today. So I want to thank you, Nancy, for your hard work and leadership.
Right out of my mouth. There's no question that there's a lot of people that are doing a lot of hard work to have us where we are. So thank you on behalf of the board to everyone that's involved, and we know there's a lot of people. So thank you so much. I'm going to ask Jeff Campbell and Murray Rowland if you'll join us at the table. The next presentation, or the next report, is the status report on the Small Schools Summit. And back in October, late October 2014, the school board hosted the 11th annual Small Schools Summit. And what we have asked really is to have a report on the Small Schools Summit. This is a good opportunity for the new trustees to kind of get a feel for what this beast is all about, and kind of see where we've been and how it's worked out. So I'll pass this over to Superintendent Dawes.
Thank you, Chair. And I do want to thank in advance Jeff Campbell and Mari Rowland. We've been working on this pretty much since the conclusion of the summit this year, and it's been a lot of fun. And we put together, I think, a comprehensive report that I hope will inform trustees a little more about what the summit is. And the intent really here is to give you a status report on what the summit offers in the way of professional development opportunity to the staff across the Upper Canada District School Board. We have an agenda for this presentation. If I could go to the next slide. I want to just take an opportunity to take you through the background and some context to what the summit's all about. And Mari's going to take over from there, talk a bit about what the summit format actually is. And we want to use the 2014 summit as an example to give you a clear indication as to, again, what it looks like and what we get from the summit. We'll do that by virtue of some more information as it relates to the keynotes, the workshops, the publisher's display, what the attendance figures look like, the financial piece. We've got some survey response data that we want to share with you from this year. we've got a small video clip that I want to present to you as well, some feedback that we got from attendees this year. And then we're going to just take a minute to talk a bit about the results from a 2011 Summit survey that tried to get to the heart of classroom impact. And then we'll wrap it up with some additional considerations and conclusions for you to consider. So just a brief, if I could, background and some context. I feel fortunate. I've been able to attend every single summit. I was there at the very first one, and I was at this year's. And from my perspective, they've always been a lot of fun. They've been very informative. But the very first one started way back in 2003, and it started really coming out of a meeting that was at Athens District High School. The parents and staff at Athens were concerned about the enrollment level at the school and the challenges that they were having trying to deliver quality educational program based on a ministry funding model that is per pupil based. And the point they were trying to make was this is a challenge for small schools. And our board took the courageous opportunity at that time to organized the Small High School Summit, it was called back then. It was the largest undertaking of its kind, and since those early days, it's been passed from one organizing committee to the next. In the earliest days, I would say the first two summits, it really was more around what we might call a kind of a call to action. The summits were meant to get some feedback and provide some information to the Ministry of Education, which we did by the virtue of a white paper called A Conduit for Change. Since those early days, though, it's really progressed more into an event of professional development. After all, Upper Canada is a board of small schools. Clearly, 64% of our elementary schools have fewer than 250 students. 64% of our high schools currently have fewer than 400 students. We don't have any elementary schools with more than 550 students, and we don't have any secondary schools, with the exception of T.R. Leger, with more than 850 students. So again, that first small high school summit was organized as a call to action, but again, it's evolved into a source of professional development, and it's really around the idea of the power of small. So we're talking at the summit, we're exchanging information about, under a common theme, about how we can get at the heart of delivering quality education for students in small school environments. So with that as a context and background, I'm going to turn it now over to Mari, and she'll give you some information about the summit format and what the 2014 summit looked like. Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Very happy to be here tonight. I think some of you have been at the summit. I know that Carol and Trustee McMillan, you've been there, or Chair McMillan. So this year we had our theme for this summer was Deep Learning Now. And we started off as formed our committee, and we picked some very talented people to be on the committee with us. It was a really great committee. We were very collaborative, and everybody pulled their weight, and we all got our tasks done. So really it wasn't a very onerous committee to be on. We picked our keynote speakers were our first priority, so we went through an agency and booked our keynote speakers, and we were trying to focus on the 21st century learner and how we could get people to start thinking about student thinking and making it visible, and the inquiry-based learning model in a classroom. And so that was our overarching thought when we were picking our keynotes. So we did go with George Kouros, who is a Canadian educator. He is actually a principal with the board in Alberta, and he is on the speaker circuit, and he is a really big believer in student inquiry and making thinking visible. And if you are on Twitter at all and search him, he's on there all the time with lots of really great articles. So we had him. We wanted a little bit of comic relief for the evening performance after dinner. So we had Steve Patterson, the host of The Debaters on CBC. And then the second day we had, oh my goodness, how the name's going. Damien, thank you. Mind blip there. Damien Cooper, who is a very well-known assessment and evaluation guru. We had him visit our board probably 10 years ago and do some speaking, and so we invited him back. He's just put out a new publication, and he was had some very timely ideas about assessment and evaluation. And then we closed off with Oh my goodness, I'm lying. Thank you. Sorry. I don't need to write that down. I don't remember all these names. Alexander Bilodeau, who was the our Olympics skier who won the first gold medal on Canadian soil. So he was very inspirational and shared his journey to the podium with us, and his perseverance was definitely remarkable to hear all about. So that was our first kind of task, was to secure them. Then we put out the call for presenters, and in the past I've been on the summit committee probably for the last 3 years. And it's been a little bit of pulling teeth and calling up principals and saying, don't you have anybody in your school who would really like to come and present at the summit? And this year we were actually overwhelmed with people who wanted to present. So we knew we were going to run around 30 workshops, and we had probably about 45 to 50 submissions for workshops. And we had some pretty upset people when we, politely declined their offer, and they were quite surprised. So that to us was really a measure of the success of the summit, that we had so many people who were excited to share their ideas with their peers. So that was a really big plus for us. We also contacted publishers and various community agencies to take part in our publishers display, and that brings in a little bit of revenue for us. The vendors do give us money for their table, and we did set up a different type of presentation for them this year. We had them in the room where the food was, and we did a passport system where people could get a passport stamped, and that worked very well. They were extremely pleased with that. We also secured our venue, so we had to, working with Ron Cottenham at the beginning, and then Brad Notman, did some quotes and picked NavCan. We did want something within the board, within the confines of the board if we could, and so we did go with NavCan. And then we set up the registration process. So that's an online registration process that has worked very well for us in the past. So that was kind of where we were at. And then we were very thrilled with the attendance numbers. So we had decided this year as a committee that we would each take a group of principals as our kind of, we were going to be their mentors for going to the summit. So all of the committee members had a group of principals, and we were their direct contact. So we would say, these are the workshops we have, make sure you register for the summit. The deadline's approaching, please register for the summit. So rather than kind of mass emails across the board, we had a targeted group that we were all contacting. I think that worked very well, because they could ask us questions, they could go right to us, to each of the committee members. So that worked well for publicity wise. The numbers were spectacular. So our attendance, we had on average 345 attendees. On day one we had 339, day two we had 350, and 63% of the attendees were teachers. And those, you all have this report, right? So I'm on page 4 of it. So you can look at the attendance numbers. They were amazing. We did have to close registration and turn people away just because we did have several people try to register at the last minute, and it just didn't work with the venue and the whole NavCan room placement and everything. So that was really a really nice problem to have, that we did have to turn people away. So we feel that it was extremely well attended.
And then I'll speak about finances. One of the nice features of the summit is people are encouraged to attend. They don't have to attend. So from year to year, the principal or the department head can decide, what are the needs of my school in terms of professional development, and the cost really of the budget comes out of the department budgets or the principal's budget. So when you look at the really breakdown for finances, the lion's share of the total revenue really comes from the school or department budgets. And in this case, I believe this year, $124,000 of that $128,000 that you see there actually came from department or school budgets. Probably a line that the principal, and in my case, would allocate for professional development or conferences for staff. The other small pieces for that revenue would come from donations that we received, or we actually charge a fee to some of the vendors for space to showcase their materials. The expenses really in this year's budget were $109,000, and the lion's share of the expenses come from reserving the venue and providing the food and the conference speakers. So we were really pleased this year, and again, it piggybacks on what Mari said regarding attendance. That I think the key is when you build this, you want to have it well attended, because what happens is it takes care of the financial piece. So really, if you're not looking outside of school budgets, there's no other cost to the board. Really, it's handled that way. So again, we were pleased this year because we ended up with a $19,000 surplus. So probably have to find a way to try to give that back to the schools, or what's going to happen.
That's already
I think that's probably what will be happening. So in moving on to the next slide, the committee wanted, we really wanted to take a look at our return on investment, and we wanted to get a picture of what people were thinking about the budget. So we posed 3 questions online. Why did you come to the summit? What about the Small School Summit really resonated with you? And were there any suggestions that you could give us in terms of what we could do better? So we had probably about half the attendees respond, 112, so we think there were about 250 per day. We could say that about half responded to our survey. And so the slide that you see there sort of underscores really what we tried to do was look at themes that came through in the responses from the attendees. And for the first question, really, why did you come to the Small School Summit? 53% of the folks attended because they wanted to acquire new ideas and new teaching practices. The other 30%, so if we look about 90% of the folks that attended wanted to learn about new ideas or have the opportunity to network and collaborate with colleagues. And then the last group of people were tapped on the shoulder really by their principal, and they came because their principal encouraged them, or their department manager encouraged them to attend. So we thought that was powerful, that people were attending the summit for professional development reasons or wanting to acquire new practices. And when you think of a board of our geography, it's a really nice opportunity for people to network and meet others and share best practices. The second question that was asked was what from the Small School Summit resonated with you? And there were all kinds of themes that sort of emerged. Really, the big piece was that the keynote speakers inspired them. So 34% of the people, or 30% of the people that left felt they were really inspired by the speakers. 26% of the people felt that they wanted to go back to the schools and do something differently. The technology piece appealed to some folks, 20% of the people, and 10% of the people felt that they needed to work. They were inspired to go back to their buildings and engage kids. And other pieces like assessment, improving their teaching practice, and building relationships with kids were all pieces that resonated with them from the summit. So I know the team, and looking at the data, we thought, well, that's really, really powerful, because a lot of these pieces link back to teaching kids. And I thought, well, we were impressed to see that feedback. The last piece was what could we do better? And again, this was, we like to hear this, that really folks didn't feel that they liked it as it was. Like 60% of the folks that responded felt they liked it the way it was, and they really didn't have any strong recommendations for us. And the remainder of the themes that came through were recommendations around venue, more water on the table. We'd like to try to get more teachers involved, those sorts of responses. So that was really sort of we captured the response from folks that attended the summit. And again, probably about 50% of the people that that attended did respond to our survey, so we were pleased to see that.
Great. So just to wrap it up, we do feel that the summit is an extremely valuable professional development opportunity within Upper Canada. We have reached out to, sorry, Bill.
Sorry, do you mind, we've got that one little video.
Oh, yeah,
Can
sure.
I do that
Go ahead.
first?
I thought we were gonna do that
No,
at the end.
sorry about that.
Sure.
Yeah, so over the years, we've made an effort at the summit to do kind of, I'll call it man on the street interviews. We just have gone around with the help of the communications department and put a mic in front of people and said, please tell us what's on your mind. And in the report, we've got a few linked to, I'll call it a longer video, I think with about 5 or 6 interviewees. What we wanted to share with you tonight is just a short one. It's got 3 responses from some teachers in our system that were attending the summit. So we'll see if this link will work.
Hi, what I took away from the Small School Summit is this incredible team that we work for that all comes together and bonds, and the networking that happens. Hi, what I took away, we eat or we see each other in the hallways. I loved learning from my colleagues, hearing their passions, hearing what they've done and how they've done that, and then them sharing with us and being able to go on. I feel pumped, I feel invigorated from this, and I look forward to going back into the classroom and back into my role and continuing my learning with thanks to everybody that participated at Small School Summit.
This year at the Small School Summit, I came to learn how to get inquiry into my grade 3-4 classroom because I really enjoyed doing that in my kindergarten classroom. I took a lot of great information away from an inquiry-based presentation, as well as some ways that can work with my assessment methods and how assessment really does work in inquiry in the junior classroom.
So what I learned over the last 2 days is listen to what the children say, and what you model is what you get.
One last piece before I turn it over to Mari to wrap up. The summit, again, over the years has been a real information sharing event. We've, over the years, made many attempts to get feedback from people on a variety of topics. We have been interested over the years to understand as best possible what impact the summit is having on actual classroom instruction. And that's a tricky thing to get at, because as a coming together as a professional development event, we can't say clearly that one isolated event is going to impact classroom teaching in isolation. But a couple of years ago, at the 2011 summit to be specific, we did send a survey out to participants of that particular summit a few months after the summit had been completed. And we asked them the question, if they wanted to respond, please explain any new approaches you have introduced to your classrooms or school as a result of attending the 2011 Small School Summit. So the idea was to get at these folks later on, a few months late, after they had actually attended the event. And the results from, and it was a small sample, 66 responses, but the results are shown in that particular graph. 52% of the survey respondents indicated that they had tried new instructional approaches in their classrooms. 21% of the survey respondents indicated that they had tried new technologies, and 9% had indicated that they had shared something from the 2011 summit with their colleagues at their school or classroom. So I just wanted to point that one out as one way that we've tried to measure the impact of the summit in school environments. Back to Mari.
And it is hard to measure some of it. I really like that video clip because it shows the joy that people had at the summit, and it was really a palatable buzz there. Everybody was really pumped with the speakers and talking about the speakers, and some, going back to the survey responses, some of the responses were, well, we should have had another workshop, or maybe we should do it on Saturday too, and have it 3 days. So we had a lot of really positive feedback like that. I think it is a great opportunity, given the geography of our board, to bring people together. It's a really nice kickoff to the year because it's in October, so it's just as we're getting started. So it's not like we have it in June and people forget over the summer what they're learning. This is an opportunity for people to go to something and actually use it that school year in their classroom. I think one of the biggest benefits is that the workshops are given by our own people. They are people who are living and breathing those strategies and instructional practices every day in their classrooms. And it's the person down the hall, it's the person down the road. So it's not somebody from outside coming in and saying, oh, you should do this, and saying, no, that's impossible. So I think that's absolutely one of the strengths of the summit. The keynotes are awesome to hear that professional development. I think that would be an opportunity to maybe expand it somehow throughout the year with the speakers. But I do think that the opportunity for Upper Canada staff to share their expertise with their colleagues is extremely valuable.
Thank you. Okay. Just going to open it up to comments and questions. Trustee Wendy McPherson.
Through the chair, thank you for the presentation, and it's unfortunate that I missed your summit. However, I wanted to ask you with regards to any provincial involvement, letting them know about what we're doing with schools, our small schools. I really liked the title before, the small schools, really driving home to the province that we have needs and we're different. And I think that's great. I don't know if that was ever intentional, but I love it. And, but is there any touch of how you guys invite them? Do they come? Are they at all involved? Are they updated?
Let me take a crack?
Sure.
Through you, Chair. As I mentioned earlier, when the summit first started in 2003, and I think I could say the 2004 summit as well, really were focused, as you're suggesting, on getting the attention of the Ministry of Education. And we produced 2 white papers that were actually forwarded onto the ministry. We didn't get any concrete formative response that was useful to our board, but I do think it raised the awareness to a certain degree. Quite frankly, I think from those earliest summits, we then it evolved more into a professional development event. We have tried over the years to advertise the summit so that it's known by other boards, but to be quite honest, participation and attendance from folks from other boards has been quite sparse. So over the more recent years, it's been more focused as a professional development for Upper Canada specifically.
So they never responded?
They did respond. I'm trying to remember back then. It's now 11 years ago. We were really focused at that time a lot around the funding formula. So could the ministry be looking at funding small schools on a per school basis as opposed to on an enrollment basis? There hasn't been a lot of progress in that respect. But over the years, I think the ministry has tried to tweak its funding formula a little bit to address low enrollment schools and to a certain degree rural schools as well.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Gardner.
I've had the good fortune to be able to attend some of these summits in the last few years, and they indeed are quite impressive. I really like the part where the employees of the board are taking a major part in presenting the workshops to our other teachers. One comment I have is that in the past, there have been visitors from other provinces and other school boards at these small school summits. So it is being seen and heard across Ontario and also Canada. I want to thank you for your work on it, Mari. I know you've been there for a few years working behind the scenes and in the forefront, and Jeff as well. So thank you for the work you've done along with the rest of your committee members. I'm very pleased to have this report. It's the first one we've seen since the Small School Summit. It may have come to senior staff, but it hasn't come to the board table in my tenure. So I appreciate seeing these comments.
Trustee McDonald and then Trustee McPherson.
Thank you. Just to put some history back into some things, because I was around when this started, and certainly a great champion for the purpose of this and the benefits associated to having those white papers in personally delivering it to Minister Kennedy in Rockland when we delivered that white paper to him, the first one. And did we achieve some things out of that? Can we attribute it to our white paper? I don't know, but certainly there's a different sense on how they fund schools, because there is an acknowledgement that every school requires a principal. And previously we had some funding associated to the number of students in the school. There are some significant dollars now that have changed as a result of that. But things change, and the evolution of it being a driver to make the province aware of our issues into a professional development exercise has changed my view, quite honestly. I think it's important that we have professional development within our board, and there are many different types of that. I recall one particular event that was at Upper Canada Village. Everyone loved it. It cost a lot of money. Everyone loved it. There's value in that. So is it value tied into student achievement? Is it value tied into wellness? I'm not sure. Perhaps both, perhaps one a little bit more than the other. In any event, this has turned into a professional development event. I would suspect that it's less than 10% of our staff go to this. If I'm not mistaken, we're at the 4,000 range employees. 250 or so people go. That's significantly less than 10%. We're not getting a very big bang for our buck when we do spend the money. I think it's important for us to evaluate the delivery method of professional development across the board to make sure that we achieve the results that we should be achieving. We consistently see schools come in and talk about their EQO results. We hear math is a problem. There's initiatives in place, but perhaps there needs to be a different emphasis on that. There are some schools that are struggling around reading and writing. We acknowledge that the ministry does pay attention to those particular schools. It's on us as a board to also acknowledge that if we have schools that are struggling, we should be doing something as well to help support them, to make sure that they get over the hump and continue on to their success. When I look at the budget, I mean, I'm not sure who put the numbers down, but Enron would love you guys if you use those numbers. You acknowledge that the fact that a majority of the revenue comes from schools. That money comes from our budget. To create a surplus of 19,000 is really, it's not a surplus. In fact, my math shows that we have a deficit of 100,000. The only revenue that we truly have is about $4,000. So there's no surplus. We spend money on professional development to be able to achieve what we achieve. What do we achieve out of this? We have staff that feel good about it. We have staff that go back and have some good learning opportunities in their classrooms, but it's less than 10%. I think it's important for us as a board to determine whether this is money that we want to spend continually and not get a tangible benefit out of it, to know that we're getting student achievement out of it. If we want to continue to do professional development, I think there's a requirement for us to do a complete examination on the delivery of professional development, on what professional development looks like, quite honestly. And so my personal view is that although I support it in the beginning, we're here 11 years later, I think it's time for a change. I think it's important for us as a board, as we move into the budget process, that we understand the money that we allocate into particular areas is achieving what we want to achieve as a board. So I'm hopeful, I'm requesting that we examine the delivery method of professional development across our board. I'll allow the rest of the trustees to speak, but if required, I'll make a motion at the end, Mr. Chair, as it relates to this or indoor professional development.
Right now. Trustee McPherson, before I get to you, and then let the director respond while that question is there, and come to you next.
Yeah.
I think I fully understand, Vice Chair McDonald, what you're saying, and to an extent, I also agree with you. But I just would like to point out that over the past 11 years, the method the delivery of professional development, or how staff access professional development, has changed. Yes, we still subscribe to conferences and events, if you will, whether that be ministry, PD that Val and a team might go to for a day in Ottawa, etc., whether it's the OE math conference in Toronto for 3 days, this kind of thing. So we still do have professional development events that people attend and they derive benefit from. I do believe, and I can't quote the research tonight, but I do believe the research shows that we're less likely to implement what we've heard at an event than we are to implement what we learn in an embedded PD format. So consequently, the strategy from the ministry, and of course one that we have adopted locally, is there's a significant resource devoted to embedded professional development. So our hub work, our collaborative inquiry, the release of teachers at the school level so that they can work by division or in their PLCs in order to further their understanding and learning so that they can teach the kids. I'm not an advocate for going totally one way or totally the other way. And I think that the board is well served by some of those quality events that are presented. And I would dare say that the Small School Summit could categorize itself as one of those. But there's no doubt about it, without the further discourse or discussion at the school level, the support of your colleagues as you implement something new, the event PD doesn't deliver, I think, the return on investment unless it's coupled with that support and dialogue back at the school.
Thank you. Trustee McPherson.
I, like David, have been here for 14 plus years. And first off, this is the first time I have seen a report come to this table based upon the Small School Summit. And I have attended one, and I will be honest with you, I found it vibrant. I found the energy levels were amazing. The guest speakers were amazing, even though one of them's now in trouble for, anyway, I won't get into that. But one of the things that I have a concern about, the first one was pure in its conception. Its idea was to tell the province there is value in small schools. And we did present a white paper, and Bob Hartley was a close personal friend of mine. However, in the 11 years since then, we have closed in excess of 20 small schools. So we're not doing anything to keep the small schools open. And it is an amazing event to attend, but I wonder, like David, are we getting value for our buck? I know it's not the decision of the Board of Trustees to whether to continue with this or not. This is simply, we're going to receive it as a report. But figuring that we're taking 300 teachers out of the classroom for 2 days at the start of the school year, and those monies come out of the school budgets. My next question is, who pays for covering those absences in the classroom? Does that as well come out of the school budgets? So is this report reflecting the true cost, or have we got another $25,000 or $30,000 or $40,000 out there that somehow isn't showing up in this report? And with every great thing, there's a time when it becomes stale. And I question whether or not we need to continue this, especially given the oncoming financial restraints. I again, just, yes, it's vibrant, but when you look at 10%, 9% of people went back and said little or no impact on the classroom. That's not a good sign. If we had held it on a weekend, would as many people attend? Okay, so this is my concern about it, and it's a lot of money, and I don't want, like, it's vibrant, it's active, it's like being inside a beehive. But at the same time, I question the actual impact on the classroom. Like, we're spending $160,000 here. And what about the travel costs? Is that included in that? Or the mileage? Like, if I go to Kingston, I get mileage on top of it and somebody pays my registration. So, are we reflecting all the costs? What about the classroom replacements? What about the 65 principals that are gone for 2 days? Somebody has to step up to the plate and be a principal at the school for those 2 days. It could be a senior teacher. Maybe they're lucky enough and they're big enough they've got a vice principal. So there's numbers here that we're not seeing.
Okay, well, I'm going to turn this back to Superintendent Dawes. There's been some questions concerning the report and the numbers. Did they include those costs? Are they in there?
Through you, Chair, no. The costs as we laid it out were just for the organization of the summit itself, and we would need to come back with the more detailed financial figures that you're asking for.
Just, may I have a follow-up clarification? One of the days of the summit is a professional activity day, and there would have been no occasional teacher costs that day. The children were not at school.
Thank you. Trustee McAllister.
Thank you, Chair. I think we've been a little bit disingenuous to our two guests here because, frankly, we are compromising two different things. What you are presenting is a report on the past school summit, and I think you did a very good job. And that was the first summit that I had ever attended, and I did enjoy it. So congratulations and thank you. Having said that, I think we are now talking about the future of the small school summits, and while it is an operational issue, I recognize. I don't know if I'll ever get an opportunity to say it again, so I might just as well take my chances. We have 4,300 staff in this board, and approximately 345 of them attended. I'm not sure that is significant, frankly, in terms of a professional development event. I think more importantly are the 7 considerations at the conclusion of the report. And I point out the first, third, fourth, and sixth in particular, whether and how the summit could be expanded to include more staff across the board. And I think that if we are going to continue, that is one strong consideration that needs to be examined. The second one is the third one, I mean, is whether and how the summit could align more precisely with the concept of the small school. And we are now back to the, as Trustee McPherson referred to, the very pure essence of the first summit, which was to examine, how small schools can deliver and exist. And that question is more relevant today than ever, as far as I'm concerned. The fourth one is whether and how the summit could align more precisely with the board's key result indicators. I think that is an important one that we should take a look at as well. And the sixth one, whether and how other professional development could be connected with the summit. I think the whole small school summit, successful as this one was and the ones in the past have been, I think it's time to take a really good look at the future of the summit and the ways in which we can better deliver professional development to our staff in targeted areas. So those conclude my remarks.
Trustee Kraft.
I really think PD is important. The main issue that I would see is if we're going to do PD properly, or if we do PD properly, $124,000 isn't going to cut it. Okay. The summit is a one-off. The way I see it, and I'm brand new, so I haven't been around for a while, but I see summit as a one-off. And I'm not certain PD and a one-off is the best way that we should be going through. I think we have to look at a theme and do PD for the year somehow in a theme. I hate to see it coming out of school budgets because that's money that can be, either way we cut it, is money coming out of the school, out of the students in that particular school somehow. So I know I'm going around in a circle a little bit, but I think we need to look at PD in a different format.
And that comes back to you, Trustee McDonald. Now, you want to...
Just another comment and then a recommendation?
That's right.
My final comment before I make a recommendation, put a motion on the floor, is that I go back to the original intent of the small high school summit, and it evolved into small school summit, was that we were attempting to achieve something across the province that was going to help us. There's a realization, I believe, among many across this province, in this board, that our entire system is small schools. The notion that we have to say we have a small school summit, it really is being lost because it's just a title. I don't see anything within the workshops that are dedicated to effective use of a small school. We're talking about practices in any school in our board. And so this particular venue is something that I just can't continue as an individual support, but I do support professional development. I think there's reasons, or there's opportunities for us to educate the masses across the province on the plight that we have in Upper Canada. But careful, because it's not that bad considering some of the other areas across the province. So we have to be careful in that particular situation. In reality, we talk about a small school summit and we talk about the importance of small schools. We need to do a deep dive as a board to understand that some schools are too small and they're hurting other schools. And that's a different discussion. We're going to have that discussion at some point, I truly hope, as a board, because for us to say that small schools are important puts a bit of a false sense of security in every school that we have, and that's not fair, I believe. When I say I support professional development, I do continue to support it, and I understand that this is not a decision that we will make tonight to say whether it continues or not, but we have the opportunity in our budget time to determine how we allocate money. That's our decision. I think it's important for us as a board to understand any money that we are devoting to professional development. We need to understand a plan that's associated to that delivery. So my motion, Mr. Chair, would be that we ask the director to provide a professional development plan tied in to the budget for, and you can help me with the dates, May, so that we can have a further review. We may have to spend this money or more money for that matter. But if we have a sense of what the money is going towards, then we can measure the result of it. We weren't able to measure these results. We didn't know the money that was going towards this until today. So I think it's important that we examine professional development as a board, as a corporate body, provide some guidance to us, and allow that to align with the budget presentation or a report back for budget consideration in May. Is that satisfactory?
Can I?
I'm not. Yeah. Forget the comment part. But
Well, look, I want to handle the motion first, and then we'll go into discussion on that. So we're just working on the motion here. And it was brought back by what date?
May. I said May, but I want to validate with director whether that's appropriate or not.
May.
Okay, so I have a motion brought forward that the Committee of the Whole direct the director to provide a professional development plan linked to the budget with the report brought back to the Committee of the Whole by May. Okay, so seconded by trustee McAllister. Now, comments, questions? Okay, trustee McPherson?
Excuse me.
We've kind of gone into two parallels here, and reiterating what John said. The level of organizing ability, professionalism in the past 11 summits has been without compare. The staff have done a professional job. They've delivered invigorating and interesting programs. I don't want this to be seen as a negative reflection. The second issue that's come up here is the level of comfort of the trustees with continuing with the Small Schools Summit, given our financial constraints. And so I just want to make, that's my personal clarification.
And I certainly understand that. What I see right now is the motion is basically asking us to take a good look at professional development in the board as it ties to our budget. And I certainly agree with what you're saying, so I'm going to continue comments on the motion, but you're right, but it really, let's focus on professional development in terms of the entire board and have it implicated in the budget. Trustee Gardner.
I'm willing to support this motion because even though, these are great events, I think change is needed and a good serious look at the professional development that is going on now with the hubs and the critical inquiry or the inquiry-based learning. And I think it would do us well to have a better understanding of where that we're going to end up in professional development.
Director.
I just want to, first of all, assure you that we look forward to bringing a plan to you, and I want tonight to give you a little sneak preview into what the plan is going to say. And that is that our professional development will align with ministry initiatives and will focus on the improvement of teaching and learning in Upper Canada. And so we will pay attention to the pillars that the ministry has set out for us: student achievement, student well-being, public confidence. But your mandate to me, board, was that I pay attention to the improvement of student learning. That's what the professional development plan is going to be about.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Okay, so I have a motion before me that the Committee of the Whole direct the Director to provide a professional development plan linked to the budget with the report to be brought back to the Committee of the Whole by May 2015. I ask you to cast your votes. Mr. Graham, you're
Not coming up on mine.
you in favor?
Yeah.
Thank you. Trustee Wendy McPherson, in favor? Or just waiting?
Oh, scared me for a minute.
Thank you. We have it. That passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Phil, Murray, Jeff, as Trustee McAllister said, thank you so much for the presentation. I don't think any of us were questioning the hard work that goes into it, and certainly having been a part of it as a few of us trustees, you know how much we appreciate the work. We feel the energy, the joy of everything that goes into it. But I also really appreciate what the director said in terms of addressing professional development in the direction of what we have asked her to do in terms of linking back to the ministry, in terms of the direction that we need to be going to improve student success in our work. So thank you very much for your report. It was really well done. So thank you.
for having us.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the next item. For the new trustees, under the leadership of Trustee John McAllister, the board has asked him to undergo the review, or a committee to undergo the review of some of our policies. And we started that back at in June, and at the end of June or mid-June, 17 policies were identified as a starting point. It's a matter of looking at the policies and are they still workable, or do we need to fix them, what do we need to do with them? So you can see when you take a look on your screen that there's been a few policies already addressed. And tonight we are looking at two other policies, policy 235, alcohol and substance abuse, and policy 432, video security surveillance of property. And I'm going to turn that over to Director Charlotte Patterson.
Thank you very much, Chair McMillan. Now, alcohol and substance use policy came to the table a few meetings ago, and one of the we had made one change, and that was to align policy, the alcohol and substance use policy, with our community use of schools policy, because one spoke about not having alcohol on board property, and the other, the community use, referenced you needed to get a liquor license. So it was a bit of an inconsistency. But it was brought to my attention that the other issue was the reference to the consumption of alcohol for board functions. So when we say that, we are talking about things like perhaps a retirement celebration, these kinds of events that aren't on board property, but they are board functions. So we worked with our legal counsel just to tidy that up. And so you'll see now that both are referenced in the highlighted paragraph. And then the other addition is the service, sale, and or consumption of alcohol must be in accordance with the law and procedure 435. So those are the changes, and I think with those two items being tidied up, I think this one has been attended to.
Thank you. Comments or questions on that? Mr. McPherson.
Why is there no reference to the LCBO? Like even to serve alcohol complimentary at a retirement dinner requires a non-sale permit. Like as soon as you move alcohol into a public building, which a school is, you fall under a whole series, and just covering it off by saying with the law or in accordance with the law seems to me a little open-ended. I would like to see some reference in there to LCBO regulations because they are quite definitive.
Okay, I think where you will see that is in it's referenced in our community use of schools policy.
Does it?
And specifically references the Liquor Control Board, the Liquor Control Board of Ontario.
Okay, but does it also reference the fact that anybody that's serving alcohol has to be certified under the Smart Serve regulations?
No, I don't believe it does. I'm speaking of a procedure right now, I believe.
Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because if you have a retirement party, technically Jeff cannot pour me a drink.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be. Now, do the provincial statutes step in to cover those things?
Well, I can certainly research that, but as I say, it will be, that would be we can update our procedure, but that wouldn't be.
I just would like to see something in accordance with LCBO regulations. I just find it in the law is a little
too general.
Too general.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Further discussion, comments?
I guess I'm unclear of what we're looking for. We're not adjusting this. Are we adjusting this policy to include Liquor Control Board requirements? I don't believe we need to because the community use covers that. And if it, I'm looking for the language, but if it deals with Liquor Control Board regulations, then that also deals with Smart Serve Act. So as long as you're referencing what the requirements are, then you're okay.
So it's my thinking that the reference to the requirements is in the procedure for community use of schools. That's where it sits right now. There's a more general reference here in this policy that's basically saying in accordance with the law and the procedure.
So I guess that's redundant in itself, but
Okay. Any more comments, questions? Okay, I think because it is mentioned in community use and liquor control is mentioned there, and I think the implication is, it's implied that if you're following the regulations of liquor control, that Smart Serve would be a part of that. What I'm going to do is go ahead and call the motion on that policy review. So the motion is that the Committee of the Whole recommend that the Upper Canada District School Board update Policy 235, Alcohol and Substance Use, with revisions as submitted to the Committee of the Whole January the 14th, 2015. So I need it moved by Trustee McDonald.
Can I still make comment? No way.
Yep. Trustee Cartner. All right, now comments, questions?
Inappropriate use. There's no inappropriate use of drugs, alcohol, and medications can be serious. Learning environment of the students. In here, would it be that there's no, because it's the procedure? So this is the policy. So wouldn't, if anyone is caught with or doing any of this, how do we deal with that? Is that another one of these reference? Because I went and looked at those other reference policies, and I didn't see anything where anybody gets how you deal with.
Yeah, we wouldn't, but we wouldn't deal with that, not in the policy.
No, not in the policy.
No, we wouldn't
Okay,
deal with
that's
that. That would be a procedure.
that would reside in the, through you, Chair, that
Yes.
would reside in the procedure. And also, we would deal with it through our, if it was students, we would deal with it through safe schools, and school operations. If it's staff, we have, progressive discipline where we would deal with those matters.
Okay. Okay, Wendy, any other comments, questions? Okay, take the vote on this, please.
Voting on that.
Yep. Trustee Armour, we know you're there. I see it. Yeah, there you go. Thanks. Trustee Taylor? Okay, we have everyone in favor with the exception of one. In opposition, sorry. Okay, so that carries. The second is the policy dealing with video security surveillance. Again, Director.
So actually, the owner of this policy is Superintendent Hobbs, but he's at a course and wasn't able to join us this evening. So I'll do my best to take you through the very minor changes that are here and some of the rationale. And I'm sure we can get through this, and my good friend and colleague, Superintendent Coombs, might be able to help me if you're thinking along the student line in this regard. So this policy was originally written or approved in 2004, so it's a good 10 years old now. But Jeremy, this sort of comes out of facilities, so Superintendent Hobbs in his review just made some fairly minor changes, changing plant to facilities, which is our term now for our custodial roster in that department. And then at the end, it's simply just a deletion of the last sentence, which refers to a review and update every 3 years. The policy follows the legislation. It follows the legislation in the Safe Schools Act, MFIPA, which municipal freedom of information and privacy. So, and that's stated in the last paragraph. So, I believe that the rationale for deleting the review is that it's consistent with current legislation, and I think also there's a recognition of the board's role in reviewing policy on a regular basis, whatever that might be, and rather than identifying it in the policy, that's the board's purview.
Senator Coombs, anything more to add to that?
No, thank you, Chair. That was very well summarized.
Thank you.
scene.
All right. Questions or comments, Trustee Carter?
Do you know how often these things break down, or how often they're checked, or? I recall a situation at one of my schools that something happened and the cameras were there, but there was nothing in them.
Through you, Chair. I don't have that information. Perhaps Superintendent Coombs can update us a bit.
Sure, certainly. Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. I personally have not had an incident where there has not been, the camera has not worked, although I have heard that sometimes it can be spotty. I think what's important is that the video surveillance within schools really, because of the nature of the video, it's important because it places students at a particular point in time in a particular place within the school. It's part of an investigation. It can be used in investigations, both school investigations and police investigations. But it is somewhat limited because you don't get audio. Generally, you're not talking high definition, full audio kind of video surveillance, but it is helpful, especially in placing who was there. And quite often when school administrators are investigating what happened, they just need to know who they need to go and talk to get further information about that, and the video helps with that.
As a follow-up question, are these are in the school and outside the school as well, are they not?
Yes, there are outdoor cameras, usually main entranceway and oftentimes parking lot as well.
Thank you. Trustee Crown.
Through Chair, I'm just picking on one sentence, and I just perhaps the director could clarify it for me. The cameras would be in those schools that are deemed necessary by the Director of Education. Does that imply that not all schools have cameras in them?
Through you, Chair. It's my understanding that all of our secondary schools have cameras. I'm not aware at the elementary level if there are schools with cameras. There are, yes. Superintendent Allen would like to follow up, tidy up my response.
Particularly outdoors, not necessarily indoors for elementary, just for security reasons.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, I'll do some thinking here in a minute.
Go back. Trustee Pearson.
First off, a point of clarification. This is strictly property. This has nothing to do with cameras on school buses, right? That's a different policy. Okay. So my next question is most small schools now have a video camera system at the front door, that there's a screen inside, somebody comes to the door, pushes the button, and somebody pushes the button and let them in. Is that video feed recorded, or is that simply lifetime broadcast? When it's done, it's done?
On the entrance?
Chair, I don't have the answer to that. Superintendent Coombs might.
Superintendent Coombs.
Glad they came tonight.
Did you have an answer to that question?
As best as I can, Mr. Chair, I believe, and I'm to a 95% certainty that no, it's not recorded. But I certainly can get clarification on that quickly.
Simply a video feed, yeah.
I wouldn't think it was just a camera to see who's there. Any other comments, questions? Trustee Kramer, back to you. Giving enough time?
I'm fine.
You're okay now? Okay, so I'll read the motion, and I need a mover and seconder. The motion is the Committee of the Whole recommend the Upper Canada District School Board update Policy 432, Video Security Surveillance Property with revisions as submitted to the Committee of the Whole, January 14th, 2015. Moved by Trustee McAllister, Trustee Bill McPherson. Any other comments, questions? Okay, I should have cast your votes, please. And that carries. Thank you very much. I need a motion now to move the committee of the whole back into the regular board meeting. Moved by Trustee Kartner, seconded by Trustee McAllister. Quick cast of your vote. Carries. Thank you very much. Now, report from private session December the 10th, 2014. There was no private session on December the 10th. Report from the committee of the whole, public session December the 10th. There was one discussion item was shared at the December 10th meeting, and no recommendations were brought forward. The next item on the list deals with board memberships, and it has to do with two memberships that our board belongs to. One is the Ontario Public School Board Association, and the other is OSTA, the Ontario Student Trustee Association. And I'm not going to say that next part in French. This is the time of the year when we renew our membership. But before we do that, I want to just, and I don't mind putting people, I hope they don't mind I put you on the spot. I just want to ask Trustee McDonald to make a comment about our membership and what having a membership with OPSPA, what value that serves to the board, and then I'm going to ask Student Trustee to comment on OPSPA.
Certainly. So thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Chair. I've been pleased to be the director on OPSPA for a number of years now, but certainly always familiar with their work. OPSPA is a co-op, if you will. It's an association of all English public school boards across Ontario. It started in 1989, and I'm very happy to say that one of the founding directors was Joe Gunn, who is a trustee that served on the SDNG board, and onto Upper Canada, a trustee that I succeeded representing the city of Cornwall. And Joe went on to be a president for that matter as well. OPSPA certainly has a number of initiatives across the province. They are the advocate for English public education across Ontario. It's an enormous agenda, small budget, small staff to be able to perform the functions that they do. The initiatives that they do have really are quietly done sometimes in the back rooms by talking to the ministry staff and talking to the individuals that are the key influencers or decision makers in the ministry. So they're not front and center sometimes like organizations that you might hear of, like People for Education, but they're very vocal in their own right, and certainly getting to be a little bit more vocal in the public setting with our president, Michael Barrett, actively engaged in social media and becoming more of an individual that is looked upon as a person that they will look to for sound bites or tidbits from whenever there are releases from the ministry, and that would be the newspaper media and certainly the agenda with Steve Paikin. So OPSPA has a lot of work that they do undertake over the course of a year. The process to develop what the key works and the priorities are, and this individual book is what drives them on a regular basis. And I'm going to hit send in a second and send you a PDF copy of this. That's developed at the AGM or leading up to the AGM, and then fine-tuned through the course of the summer with an executive council planning session. It talks in here very directly about what the work is, and there's some more detail down into the individual, the focus areas or the advocacy particular areas. But one of the main portions that they do have in here is building leadership capacity in trustees. So as trustees who might have been here for 14 years, or 4 years, or 4 months, there's lots to learn as a trustee in Ontario. So OPSPA provides training sessions to us on a regular basis, and one of those is coming up at the end of January. They have sessions guided towards labor relations, and they have their AGM that's held in June typically, where they provide those professional development opportunities for trustees to become engaged into what's happening across the province, and to become engaged with finding like-minded individuals or boards that you can certainly bounce some ideas off. When I said they were an advocate for English public education, they really have become more than just an advocate of English public education. But one of the things that they do concentrate on is, and we've changed the title a couple times, is the whole child and student well-being. We're here because we represent school boards, And school board's main goal is to ensure that the students that we have a successful journey in the buildings that we have called schools, but there's certainly an opportunity to be successful once they leave our schools. So there's a considerable amount of work that goes into ensuring that we have a good focus on student well-being, student learning, and it dives down even further into the language-based and the types of curriculum that's being taught. So the key works you'll have in your inboxes in just a few minutes. OPSPA also provides regular updates to us on a weekly basis through the FAST reports. You see that information come into your mailboxes. They provide you a media report on a daily basis to show you what's happening across the province around education. Some of it's very directly related to education, some of it's on a peripheral as it relates to education, but certainly give you those updates. They also have been providing you the updates on labor relations. They give you the tidbits on what's happening in labor relations. I haven't seen them lately because there's not much going on, quite honestly. But when I said earlier that they've become more than an advocate and more of a presence than just for English public education, all of us just went through, except a couple of us that were able to sit back and not have to have an election, went through a municipal election. And OPSPA across the province created a database of trustees, individuals who are running for trustee, and allowed those individuals to have a voice to put their messages out to the general public. They also created public service announcements on the importance of trustees in public education, and that just didn't require those individuals to think on the English public side of things. The messaging, the branding that they associated to the print display ads and to the video messages was tremendous, and it really keyed into people across the province on what a school board trustee does. There's an offshoot associated to OPSPA as well that they have Ontario Education Cooperative, what's SOASC, which really they are the leading people across the province that work for boards of education when it deals with energy rates. And so whenever our gas companies across the province want to increase the rates, they are the ones standing in front of the energy board, advocating on behalf of all public school boards to make sure that we can get those reduced rates. They're the leading voice right now by mandate, by legislation, for English public school boards and labor relations. They really have a small budget that has not increased over the years. It's a $2 million budget. The revenue is based on the enrollment in your school and your board. And for a number of years, I personally and this board has advocated that is not sufficient. In fact, there should be additional monies devoted back to OPSPA for some of the work that they're doing. I think there's more work that we could do, but there's limited resources that OPSPA has to be able to do that. For the limited resources that they have, a lot of those individuals are on contract basis, and they perform extremely well. Top-notch individuals that work with OPSPA, and you can take my word for it, but I'd like you to see it firsthand as well. So you're going to have to go on my word to get the membership back for next year, but I encourage you to attend the Public Education Symposium in January to see the excellent work that OPSPA provides trustees in the province of Ontario and advocating for students across Ontario as well. I'd be happy to answer any questions as well on OPSPA.
Thank you for that short promotion on that. Trustee Cruz, you can tell us about OSTA.
Thank you, Chair. So OSTA ACO, or the Ontario Student Trustees Association, is an association where all the student trustees across the province get together and we work collaboratively. I would say it helped me tremendously, especially in the beginning when I first started becoming a student trustee. The first really big experience as a student trustee was our AGM, which is in May. So I got to go with Tyler to AGM. They do a lot of work, like even I got to learn about how to handle the media, how to dress, how to speak, how to act, and it really brought my confidence way up. Like, I didn't have a lot of confidence coming into it, and after the conference I thought to myself, like, I can do this. I have support groups, I have all these people around me teaching me and showing me, and I can learn from them. So that was really important to me in the beginning. I continue to learn valuable things. We have mental health speakers. I've learned so much about mental health, about Aboriginal, and how to help them in their journey. We have networking and sharing. So one of my initiatives that I'll talk about in a bit in my report is a gene drive that I wanted to do across the board, and that was actually an inspiration from another student trustee that's doing something similar. And also I know about a different board that happens to be doing a Student Senate logo competition. So we get to network and share and collaborate our ideas, which is really important. I'm also part of a communications committee, which I get to take the communications idea back and use it in our own board. And that's really important growth for me too. And they also have a committee that's directly based on helping the new student trustees come in, and they make lots of tips, like books with tips and important apps that we can use and stuff like that. They also have partnerships with organizations such as the Global Green Alliance and Habitat for Humanity. So we have these connections to organizations that I could use if, say, a student ever sent me a message wondering about how to implement environmental techniques into their school. I could send them to Global Green Alliance because I have those connections and I know who to contact for that. It also allows me to have a better picture of what the students want provincially. So not only am I getting the voices from our board, but I'm getting the voices from the students all over Ontario, and it gives me a big picture of really what we should focus on and what my next step should be. So I really think that the partnership with OSTA is very important.
Student trustee Shayla Cruz. If OSTA had any impact on the trustee that you are and the job you've been doing, they got my vote because they've done an amazing job. But I do believe that personally it was you to begin with, so you've done an incredible job. So thank you for that report. Just a little history on OSTA. We've been members since 1989, and as Trustee McDonald said, our membership fees are based on enrollment. The present fees that we pay right now for OPSPA is $68,694. And OSTA is $1,300. So, comments or questions? You can refer them to either people that talked about these associations. Seeing there are none, let's have a motion. The motion is that the Upper Canada District School Board renew the 2015-2016 membership of the Ontario Public School Boards Association and Ontario Student Trustee Association. Have a mover? Trustee McDonald, Trustee Kartner, any more comments, questions? Okay, I ask you to cast your votes, please. Trustee Kartner, you guys gonna look over at you.
In favor, anyway, it's not coming up here.
Nobody's okay. Trustee McPherson?
It's all right.
Trustee McPherson, you in favor?
I voted. I'll do it again, make you happy.
I'm happy now. Thank you very much. That carries. Okay, moving on. Is that one of the standing items is an OPSPA report. Back over to Trustee McDonald.
Thank you. I will be brief this time.
Thank you.
I promise. I can't guarantee that Trustee McAllister will be. I'll hand it over to him.
Okay. Thank you.
I just want to give you just a bit of an overview about legislation that's coming forward or any consultations. I'll do that on a regular basis coming through these meetings, but there is some work that's coming out of the policy committee that Trustee McAllister sits on, so I'll let him speak to that. But going through the province right now, there's pre-budget consultations. OPSPA will be providing a submission to the Ministry of Education. Those consultations, the closest for us will be Cornwall and Ottawa throughout the province, and you have to have a submission to the clerk by January 30th for that. So obviously, you know, everything that we talk about and everything that's in the key work is provided, and we have an opportunity. Once that's submitted, we'll get a copy, and you can have a view of what's submitted to the ministry as far as budget consultations. Generally, it's around the GSNs. Again, I spoke earlier just quickly about the PES meeting. Prior to the PES meeting, I'll be attending the Executive Council, representing the Eastern Region as the Vice Chair for that particular date. Our vice chair is not available on the 28th, so I'll be happy to stand in for him on that. And then we'll have a brief regional meeting at the PES session on the Saturday. Everyone's welcome to attend the regional meeting. And our next board of directors meeting is in February, the weekend of the 20th and 21st. So Trustee McAllister has some updates on policy.
Thank you, David. I sit on the policy committee. Trustee Carter sits on the program committee, and Trustee Garrow sits on the Native
Aboriginal
committee. And so we are both well represented at OPSPA. I think in Carol's case and mine, we meet twice a year. Excuse me. Twice a year in person and twice by teleconference. And from time to time, one of those employees, a very hardworking director of policy, her name is Jennifer McIntyre, she will email us all and ask for input on letters that they are working on with regard to various issues. And I think I sent this all to you today. But there's one in particular, well, there are 5 issues that she wanted some comment on. So I may comment on at least 2 or 3 of them. One is the Federal Remembrance Day bill. The second one is the Municipal Elections Act review. Third is the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. And the fourth is the review of competitive procurement processes for student transportation. And the last one is the 2015 pre-budget consultations. But I thought the first one in particular might be of interest to you, and it concerns...
Just, if you're going to talk about the procurement process for transportation?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Not really, no.
Okay, no, I just want to
No, I understand.
Because you're caught me blindsided.
The one in particular that I would like some input on is the Federal Remembrance Day bill, which has been moved by a New Democrat, Dan Harris, and it's called Bill C-597. And it would establish a cross-country standard to treat November the 11th as a national statutory holiday. And it would be up to the provinces to enact that themselves, but nevertheless, if that bill comes to fruition, it would be a national holiday. The question, I guess, is this what we would like? Is this the best way to recognize and commemorate Remembrance Day? There are quite a number of arguments for and against. One is that I'll read some of the comments for her letter that she has put in. November the 11th is an important day for all Canadians to honor and recognize the men and women who have served and sacrificed and continue to serve our country. Remembrance Day must be afforded the respect and dignity it rightly deserves and maintain its place among the great traditions of our country. The Ontario education system has a responsibility to enrich and ensure that each student develops a real understanding and appreciation of Remembrance Day. Children new to Canada must also have an understanding of the sacrifices that many Canadians made to preserve and protect the way of life that they now embrace. Students, their families, and communities are brought together by school-organized ceremonies and events. Schools should continue to work together with their communities and other organizations to recognize and remember. So, I guess my personal thought is that I'm against this particular bill because I think we can achieve all those goals of commemoration and remembering and appreciation within the context of the school day. In fact, we can do it better within the context of the school day than we can just to have a day off and to leave it to the students to do what they wish. So that is the essence of the discussion. And I'd be interested if you have any comments to hear them. I know some of you have spoken to me privately, and one have sent me an email. If you have anything to add with regard to any one of these topics, I'd be glad to incorporate it in my response, which will be going probably by Friday to back to Jennifer, which she will incorporate into her.
So Mr. McAllister, you're asking basically if we give you, call you, email you, write you. We're not going to get into the discussion right now, but to connect with you.
Exactly.
Thank you. Anything more you want to add?
No, that'll be all.
That was excellent. Thank you. Trustee Carter.
From the work group that I am with OBSPA, we had a meeting back in December. And one of the things that's coming forward out of this is we want to know what boards are doing on environmental sustainability practices in school boards. What we would like to do as a work team is to put up on our website, OBSPA website, what boards are doing to address this issue, and that we have a contact person in each of the boards that, say our board wanted to talk to another board when they saw this idea that's up on the OBSPA website. So just a heads up to our director, she will be receiving a letter from OBSPA.
She already got it.
She already got it? Okay. And our director here also received it. So there was 2 people that was sent to make sure that this was followed up. So I'm hoping to hear a response back through Judith Nyman about what our board is doing. Now, we've had a little work done on that before when you had a previous question to answer. So perhaps that'll help you.
Thank you. It will.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Be energetic. Trustee Sheila, please give us the report, please.
So we just recently had our last student senate meeting on December 12th. We had some awesome guest speakers. We had the Miss Director Patterson, and she spoke to us about leadership and really what important keys of being a leader. So I think we really all took a lot from that. We also had the Vice Principal of Program, Lori Taylor, come to speak to us. She spoke to us about equity and inclusion and how to make everyone feel involved in really important parts of making everyone feel included and really questioning why people don't feel included. So that was, I think, really important keynote for the day as well. We're just bringing our Student Senate logo competition to a wrap-up. So there's a link there. There's also the top 3 logos that the senators have selected at the last meeting. So if you click on the Facebook link, you can go cast your vote for your favorite logo as well. The one logo is up to 160 likes, I think. So we're having a really good feedback from the community, which is awesome. Also, our newest initiative is called Jeans for Teens. So just a little quote from the website. In Canada, 1 in 5 people experience homelessness is under the age of 25. One item they often request, a pair of jeans. So we're doing a board-wide old jean, lightly used jeans fundraiser. And we're going to donate all of them to this Jeans for Teens initiative. I've gotten great feedback from the senators. I've had, I think, 11 schools on board, which is half of them. So that's really good feedback. Also, on the communications note, communications has gone up exponentially, like way better communications with my senators. They're answering my emails, which is awesome. So that is my report.
Thank you, Rich. Anyone have any questions of Mr. McAllister? You have any extra pairs of jeans?
No. I'm not sure you'd want them.
Just asking. Director, do you have any comments?
Thank you. I'd like to find out from student trustee Sheila Cruz how she gets people to answer her emails.
Be blunt about it.
Yeah. Earlier this evening, Superintendent Allen mentioned that we'd be meeting with ministry folks as a follow-up to our board improvement plan for student achievement meeting that we had a month or so ago. And I just wanted to also share with you that I had the opportunity to have a telephone conversation with the Assistant Deputy Minister, Mary Jean Gallagher, and she is in charge of
literacy and numeracy improvement across the province. And she extended an invitation to me. I'm going to be in Toronto next week, and she extended an invitation to me to meet with her to further explore and refine our board improvement plan for student achievement. And Superintendent Allen will be on the phone. She'll be here in Upper Canada, but she'll be on the phone. So it's a wonderful opportunity for us to get some very strong support from the province, from the Ministry of Education, as we continue to focus on our student learning agenda. So I just really wanted to let you know that, first of all, we are definitely moving forward in that regard. And secondly, I would like to, if there's an opportunity tonight, to signal to the Ministry how much we appreciate the support that we've received. I would like to do that as well. So, yeah, it's a good news story. Thank you.
Thank you. On Monday, just my final comment, on Monday I was in Kempville with the LLMA, room full of principals, and it was a leadership workshop really led by our superintendents. Our director spoke from the very beginning, and I'm very proud of the fact that the message that you give is very clear. You can sense in the room the focus on student achievement. Whenever I get an opportunity to go out there and watch our superintendents teach, because you actually become coaches and teachers yourselves. It's a great experience. I love every minute of watching you teach. And what I see come over you is that spark of being an educator. And it just comes out because you've got a big class in front of you and away you guys go. So you're doing an amazing job, but I think the most important thing is when you look across the room, the focus is there, and the focus is on student achievement. So I thank you very much for what you're doing. I need a motion to adjourn. Trustee Wendy McPherson, seconded by Trustee Bill McPherson. Show of hands. Thank you very much, everyone. Drive carefully going home.
I'm going to have to look after that.